Hey, everybody. Welcome into the first ever live podcast. Don't say anything yet, Mittens. Hold on. I did exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. All right, now you can say something.
Hello.
All right, here we go. So, this is the first live podcast, everybody, that we are doing. I said I would do one on Halloween. First off, let me welcome in everybody. Mittens, welcome. You were the
Hello.
first. Claire, welcome in. Happy Halloween to you as well. C&D, welcome in. How you doing, man? Good to see you. And then Claire again. So today, guys, is a special episode. We're going to be talking about the best horror games of all time, our top 5 favorites, are the worst horror games, because there are some bad ones out there. We're just going to be talking about all of them. This is a raw podcast, so bloopers are bound and probably will happen. I'm just saying. So, with that being said, I am Matt.
I'm Mittens.
Hellfire Club. Sorry. Do we want to get into the news first?
Of course. Definitely want to hear what's going on lately.
Okay. So let's talk about Resident Evil first. Resident Evil 8 dropped its DLC on Friday. It seemed like everything came out Friday. You had Resident Evil Village, you had Bayonetta 3, and the Duty game. I'm kidding. I might play Call of Duty, I might not. I don't really care either way. So I did get Bayonetta 3. I am not boycotting the game because I found out that what's her face was just lying about everything. If you don't know what's going on with that, just Google it. It's a whole mess. I don't want to talk about it. But Village came out. The DLC for Village came out, and they added in the third-person mode for Ethan, or the Winter's expansion pack. So you have the third-person mode for Ethan's game. Then you have the Shadow of Rose, which is also a third person. That's kind of where I think they got the idea of just throwing in the third person for Ethan so you can play like the other Resident Evil games with him. I, for now, kind of don't like it, at least for Ethan, because he moves too slow. I'm assuming Rose moves a little bit faster, and if you don't know who Rose is, that is obviously Ethan's baby. She is now 16 years old. It's 16 years later from the end of Resident Evil 8. If you have not played the game, sorry, spoilers. The game's been out for a year.
I feel like she's a Banff.
Yeah, I've heard people say that the DLC, the controls and everything, the gameplay feels a little like Devil May Cry-ish, kind of. Somebody said it felt like another game. Oh, Evil Within. It said it felt like Evil Within, which I'm like, okay, cool. I did like Evil Within, and it was Shinji Mikami who worked on that too. After he went and did Shadows of the Damned was the game he did after he initially worked on Resident Evil. It seems like it's gonna be a fun game. I did play through some of RE-verse. That was kind of a mess. It's fun, but I don't like the fact that the camera and the controls are just so fast. I'm like, oh god, I'm moving all over the place. So it's gonna take a little bit of getting used to. Or I have to just slow down the pitch because I'm like, this character, you're moving way too fast for me. Let's just slow it down a little bit. But yeah, that was pretty much the Resident Evil news for Village. Also, we saw some gameplay for Resident Evil 4 about, 2 weeks ago? Saw some gameplay for Village 4. It looks good. It looks good. I am impressed. I was one of the people that said we don't need a damn remake, just like we didn't need the 95 ports they gave us, but I bought every single one of those 95 ports except for the one on mobile devices because it's garbage. I mean, not Switch. Switch, yes, but like mobile phones, I mean, garbage. It looks good, and they showed off a new trailer. Ashley looks a little more useful in this one. I'm happy with that because she's useless in the original. She just sits there, and if anybody's ever played the game, she yells constantly, just constantly yelling about needing help from Leon. Between her and Emma in Metal Gear Solid 2, I'd say Emma is the less of the two annoying ones because she can at least. No, she's kind of useless too. Sad what happens to her, but she's kind of useless too. But no, it's pretty interesting, and they showed a little trailer, and she has like some kind of. I'm assuming it's the part where she. If you've played 4, then there's a part where she coughs up blood, and she's like, "Leave me alone, Leon." Blah blah blah. Runs off. Good, you're rid of her for at least 10% of the game. but her eyes start bleeding, and I'm like, ooh, what the hell? And I think it's that part where she's like, the parasites kind of take an effect on her, and she says, Ada says something about, take care of her or I will or something, and she's pointing a gun at Leon. So I'm like, ooh, dang, what's going on here? So we'll find out in March. We hopefully get a demo before then. They did say back in July when they first announced that there was going to be a VR mode, but they did not show too much of that on this past thing. Claire says, you guys pre-ordering Resident Evil 4. I already have it pre-ordered, so yes. Yes. Am I getting the collector's edition? No. No, I'm not. I do not have money for collector's editions anymore. Um, Plus, I'm looking around. I say I have nowhere to put that Leon statue, so nah, I'm not going to get the
You'll
collector's.
find a place.
It's my ass. Um, so that was the Resident Evil news. Now we move on to
Me,
the
I'm not gonna pre-order it.
yeah. But what are
I'm a
your
cheeky nugget.
what are your did you see any of the footage of it? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I did see the footage of it. I also read up on it. Since I get IG every month because I'm a weirdo. So I did see a lot of how the graphics are better and everything like that, but also I'm interested also in what they're gonna do in the story. If they're gonna change anything at all, that'd be cool. And make a couple of the characters, like you said, more useful as you're just the main character trying to get through life and survive, and they're just pretty much being annoying. Hopefully they'll be able to do some more stuff for you. Instead of screaming in your ear the whole time.
I didn't like how Luis looked. He looks like an actor that I can't stand, and I can't think of who it is.
Because you can't stand him.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember. He doesn't
What are you
look.
playing?
He does what? Who?
What's he playing?
What's he play? What's who playing?
The guy that you don't like.
Well, it's really hard to say. I can't. He reminds me of the guy that played Leon in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, mixed
Yeah.
with the guy with the glasses from Jurassic World, the little nerdy guy that wore the Jurassic Park shirt. Reminds me of. He looks like. Oh man, I am drawing a blank. An actor from a movie. I'm trying to remember. It's coming. Oh, the guy Will Smith's friend in Independence Day who gets killed by the aliens. He looks like that guy. I forget his name. I think it's Harry Connick Jr. I think that's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that I can't stand him. It's just Luis's face. I'm like, ugh. You couldn't make him look like the other one. Igor, welcome in. Good to have you here. Hope you're having a good night. Decided to treat myself and get the deluxe edition. Now that's the one that's digital only, right? For PlayStation 4 and 5 and Xbox Series X, since they didn't want to release it for Xbox One. I don't know why. But yeah, now that we're gonna talk about Resident Evil again later, but I want to talk about the big news, which is that being Silent Hill. I mean, we have not had a Silent Hill game in 10 years. The last one that came out was Silent Hill. Well, actually, Silent Hill 2012 had 3 Silent Hill games come out. 4 if you count the HD collection. We had Downpour. We had Book of Memories on Vita, which is just a dungeon crawler. It's fun, but it gets a little repetitive after a while. And then we had the HD collection of Silent Hill 2 and 3, which I still have. It's right there on my back wall. It's going to be played at some point. Yeah, you right there. I don't know when, but it's going to be played. So they announced 5 Silent Hill games. The only one I actually really watched or cared about was the remake of 2. After that, I really didn't watch too much of the showcase. But I'm going to try and remember.
It was a massively long one too.
It was, and they started it early. Like it was supposed to start at 4:00 my time, and somebody on Twitter was like, "Oh yeah, hey, you can go watch it already. It's already started." Like they uploaded the live stream instead of making it a live stream. So first thing they showed was Silent Hill 2 remake. A lot of people aren't happy with it because of the team that made it or that is making it. It's a blooper team, They worked on Layers of Fear and The Medium, which a lot of people did not like The Medium. I don't care. It's Silent Hill 2. If I don't like it, I still got the original, and I will love the original game until the end of time. I will love that one no matter what, because the original Silent Hill 2 is one of those games that has like that special place, you know? And I think it's because of how long it took me to play it, or to complete it. But it looks interesting. They have all the same things, you know. The trailer starts off with James in the first off, you see a cockroach walking through the bathroom.
Ah.
Yeah. And then you see James walk in, do his usual, looking in the mirror like he did in the original game. But I'm a little upset they played the song. I think it is one of the songs it plays. Have you played Silent Hill 2?
I watched my brother play it. I was
So
too young.
yeah. So the track they played in the trailer, I think, is when you're in the hotel thinking about your wife Mary or whatever. Not room 302 or 312 or whatever room it was. That track is pretty awesome. But they should have played White Noise when he was looking into the or Reflections. I think it's called two different things. But when he's looking into the mirror, I'm like, man, I should have played that one instead, because that track was more iconic to me. I felt like I enjoyed that track a little bit more, but they played another one. But the game looks good. I am not gonna lie, it looks good. James's face is a little wonky at times. It looks kind of like Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges, like the dude. Um, and I believe they showed one of the endings in the trailer, because the game has multiple endings, and they showed one where he's got a noose. I'm like, that's one of the
Mm.
endings. You can get different endings in the game. I've only gotten like two of them. In order to get all of them, you gotta play the game like 6 times. I'm like, this game's too long to do. Um,
They're
but
excited and excited for Silent Hill.
I am excited for it. I hope it's not. I don't know. We'll see what happens when it comes out. I still think Silent Hill 1 should be getting a remake too. And I still think, well, Konami kind of lost the source code from what I've always heard. And people say that's just an excuse they made to not port the games to modern consoles. I was like, if that's an excuse, why haven't they ported them yet? You know? I was hoping that one of the announcements would be that we were getting all the games on PlayStation Plus, but it's not. It was not. We are getting 4 more Silent Hill games and a new movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I honestly didn't. If you watch that rest of the show, I'm gonna let you talk about it, because I do not know what else was mentioned
I
at that.
literally did not.
Okay.
Because I was like, it's way too long for
Yeah.
one. And two, all I really cared about was, bring it back either one or two. Like, that's all I really cared about. And when it comes to two, and you're thinking, like, some people are thinking, I hope they don't change it up. Some people are saying, like, Igor's saying, I hope they kind of do change it up and put a little surprise element. Definitely, yes, some things, but not like canon. Like, don't change what you know could happen, add maybe something, but don't change the whole canon of it. And they probably, I know you're worried, like you said, about the people who are actually making this one, producing it, stuff like that. They know that there have been diehard fans waiting for so freaking long. And if they were going to mess something up, they know they will be pretty much destroyed by reviews and everybody else like just coming at them. So I don't think they would kind of do that.
Yeah.
It,
they
so I would still give it a chance.
yeah, they know that if they screw up, they're gonna piss off a lot of people. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, well, before the announcement even happened, people were like, expect to be disappointed, expect this, expect that, don't expect anything, expect another pachinko machine. And I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I don't think they're going to go out of their way just to announce another pachinko machine. They're making a big deal out of this. Hold on one second.
Music, 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 music. Yeah, you said Silent Hill Shattered Memories is a remake of one, if I'm not mistaken. And Igor said you played. I only played Homecoming. Yeah. So
Hey
y'all are
guys, we got to
definitely
take a
excited.
quick small break. I will be right back. The dog needs to go outside. We'll be right back. Hold your thoughts. I got some stuff to say about Shattered Memories. I'll be right back, guys.
Ah, yeah, I am. Put me on? Oh, sure, that's fine. Yeah.
Hey guys, Mittenz is gonna talk to y'all for a bit, so I'll be right back. Okay, guys.
Yay! Okay, because I was gonna like just keep on messaging y'all. Yeah, scale 1 to 10. How much excite for Silent Hill 2? You are 8 out of 10 excited about Silent Hill. So I'm excited. Preston's like, I'm excited for it. Most definitely. Since I've been a chicky nuggy my entire life, so the going into, I guess this is my villain era. I'm actually getting into more horror genre movies and stuff like that. I would definitely play it. Definitely play it. Scared out of my freaking mind, but I will do it. Silent Hill 2. Are there any like specific memories of that game that's making you that much excited? Is it just because it's been so long since there has been any speaks of Silent Hill? I mean, or is it because you have like this specific core memory of this video game series that you're just like, man, I really want to see what they can do with the newer engines that they are doing now, using now on video games that can really just like grip you. Anything that's realistic and horrible. Like, I wanna be scared. I wanna have a I wanna have memories of this horror in me for a while. 8 out of 10. Much excite. And happy Halloween, everybody, if you celebrate, by the way. Thank you guys for joining us here. Hope you all had a bunch of candies. I'd still rather them get on better terms with the original creators and actually do what everyone wants, and that's ah! Hey, Megan, how's it going? Hi, you. Thank you for dropping in. I appreciate you. Yeah, you definitely hold a little bit of similarities to what Matt was saying earlier, but I also say kind of give them a chance too. They have, of course, experience with horror games, but then these, like I said, the fan base is so strong, so freaking strong when it comes to Silent Hill that if they did anything, pretty much put a toe out of line, they're gonna get murdered. Like not literally, but like their ratings will just dive bomb. Ooh, subjective, I'm sure, Jeremy, but would Silent Hill or Fatal Frame be scarier? You love Fatal Frame, but I'm a 7 for Silent Hill. It will only grow with more being shown. Exactly. So I don't really want too much being shown on the game though. Like I want to be able to play it. I don't want them to show me all the stuff. You want to be surprised, especially if they do add a little bit of the crazy elements.
What are we talking about?
So I was just, discussing with chat. So Fat Cat had the same pretty much as you do about having the original creators rather than and then Jeremy's like, love some Fatal Frame. Kind of a 7 when it comes to 1 out of 10 for how excited they're gonna be for Silent Hill.
So, what I was gonna say about Shattered Memories is, I held that thought. It technically, yes, was a remake, but it was more of a reimagining. It took out all the weapons, no fighting, no guns, nothing. It's more of a just run away from the monsters kind of thing. So that's kind of why I'm like, y'all should just go ahead and remake Silent Hill 1 again.
Yeah.
Also, Konami, if you're listening, you got 3 other games: Metal Gear, Castlevania, Metal Gear and Castlevania. You got 2 other games. You got Contra, but y'all made that shitty. I won't talk about it.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's not
Make no
important.
speak.
I never played Fatal Frame, but I hear that it is very scary. We're gonna talk about all this in just a moment, guys. So hold those thoughts. We're gonna definitely get into it. Um, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, same thing with Silent Hill and Resident Evil 4. Silent Hill 2 and Resident Evil 4. I hope that we get some new stuff added into it. Yeah, keep the old stuff in there, but like what they did with Resident Evil remake, two make, three make. They added new areas. Not Yeah, I think in Resident Evil 2 they added some new areas, but 3 they just kind of half-assed because they outsourced it, so we don't. really consider that a new area. But like Resident Evil 1, the reason they added all this new stuff is because Shinji Mikami was like, he actually said, I felt that Resident Evil was not a completed game. So
Mm.
that's why he wanted to remake it. And he said, well, Resident Evil 2 was a completed game. And it's like, bro, you didn't even direct Resident Evil 2. So, you have really no say in that. Um, that was directed by the guy that did Devil May Cry, actually. So yeah, I would like to see some new areas, some new things, but stick to the original story. Don't try and change it. Don't try and do too much. Metal Gear Solid had a remake too. The only thing they added to that was more cutscenes. More cutscenes. Like longer cutscenes that we didn't need. The only cool one with that was actually the ninja hallway. But
But
yeah,
what about
no.
like DLCs? Like you can add a DLC, maybe get to know a character better or something like that, but like
Yeah.
nothing is gonna ruin the
And
story.
and Jeremy's talking about PT. Oh man, PT, what a fucking game. That scared the absolute shit out of me, okay? I played it, I was excited. I said, oh, sweet, sweet. I was trying not to swear that time. I was like, we're getting a new Silent Hill game. This is awesome. I played probably 10 minutes of the game, of the demo, and this thing popped out and scared me half to death. I screamed so loud. My dad came in the room and he's like, you okay? I was like, this game scared me. And I was laughing too. And he's like, I thought you were having a heart attack. I said, I damn near did have a heart attack from this game. So, um, I honestly, when it was still a thing, when Silent Hills was still a thing, PT and all that, I said, I hope they have like a fear meter or something, and like you can play on like wuss mode or something. Because I was like, if this game is that scary, I will not be able to play it. Outlast was another game that was pretty bad. Um, I guess with that being said, you want to go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes and talk about the horror games. We can cover the anime if you want to cover that real quick, and then we can jump into the
We're not doing anime today.
we're not doing it. Okay,
No anime today.
all right. No anime today, guys. So just the horror stuff. So since we're
Yeah.
talking about the Silent Hills, the Siren, the PT, all that stuff, let's jump into psychological stuff first. You want to jump into that one first? Talk about psychological horror games.
Most definitely.
Okay, I feel like we spent enough time on Silent Hill. Um, I'm gonna save the best one for last, but I would say my second pick for a psychological thriller game, because I've never played Fatal Frame. Like I said, I've never played Siren. I really want to play both of those. I have them on my PS3. I just don't know when I want to play them, but they're on my list. I do want to play them at some point. But I would say Condemned is another one that kind of messes with your head. Has anybody ever played Condemned other than me?
Never heard of it. What's it about?
Okay, so you are a CSI investigator.
Ooh.
They're tracking a serial killer. Serial killer. I can never say that damn word. And basically he starts messing with you and like messing with your head and stuff, and you're going through just solving crimes, doing crime scenes and everything. It's a very dark game, so it's a lot of using the flashlights and everything. It's like a Silent Hill, first person Silent Hill game. So we used to joke about it. We said, oh, it's like Silent Hill, and then the final boss looks like Nemesis from Resident Evil. So you're
Ooh.
basically a cop, and you start having like, from what I remember, I haven't played the game since like 2007, but I just remember he starts to see things and things start moving around. And there's one spot in particular I'm walking through. I'm like, this game's not that bad. And I go in, it's a room full of mannequins. I said, nope, back that shit up. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Quit the game. I'm done. And I'm like, I don't like this because I don't like mannequins. I never have. I never will. I used to have nightmares about them when I was a kid. Really any kind of nightmare where somebody didn't have a face freaked me out. And you're going through, and I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. And the lights go on. I was like, oh, okay, I don't like this. And they're all like throughout the room. So you got one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. And he's like, oh,
No.
they're not that. So there's a little, doorway down there I can go through. Lights go off. I'm like, oh damn, I can't see anything. Flashlight's not working. Lights come back on. They're all around you. I'm like, ooh. It was creepy, but it was so awesome. I loved it. It's like Alien Isolation before Alien Isolation was the thing. So it's not as open as Alien Isolation was. I mean, that game was pretty open, not like open world or anything, but it was pretty big. But you're going through, and I'm just like, I'm trying to remember everything that I could. And I think the serial killer just messes with your head so damn much that
Mm.
you eventually do kill him. But then there's another enemy you fight, which looks like Nemesis mixed with a Silent Hill character. And there was a second one, and it's basically following on the fact that he's lost his damn mind. And they kind of took away the whole. It still has some horror elements, but they took away the CSI investigating. They took away all that stuff and made it a little more action heavy and added multiplayer. Oh, God. Why the games in 2008, 9, 10, 11 that didn't need multiplayer at, I don't know, whatever. Um, it's still a fun game, but it just didn't have that same feel as the first one did, just like the Fear games. And that is also another psychological game that messes with your head. Um, Mainly the little girl. Has anybody played Fear
Ugh.
or heard of the game Fear? There's 3 of them.
Well, Jeremy's like, I think I played Condemned long ago.
Yeah, it's an Xbox. The first one is an Xbox 360 exclusive game. I believe it was a launch title for the Xbox 360, so it's about almost 20 years old in about
Yeah.
2 or 3 years. Um, it was a fun game. My friend bought it, beat it, gave it to one of his friends, but I wanted to play it, and I got it when it was like cheap. I got it like 2 years after when I got my 360, but I loved it, and I'm gonna play it on the channel one day. I did it on Twitch about 2 years ago, and I forgot why I stopped streaming it. I think something else came out. I was like, I'll play that instead. But Fear is kind of the same. Oh, hold on, let me go back to Jeremy's message here.
Yeah.
What about on the Switch, Nightmare Dungeon 1 and 2? I've never heard of that game.
Me neither.
I've never heard of that game. Tell us what it's about,
And
and
it's on
we'll
the Switch?
discuss. Yeah, it's on the Switch apparently.
Rezzy's like, I have them, but I don't play them. I'm too scary.
So
Oh!
so the Switch has some good horror games too, and I mean, we could talk about. And guys, if there are any games that you've heard of that we have not, please let us know in the chat, because we're mainly going to be talking about the games that we've heard of, and there's a lot of games that I would love to try, and I'm open to recommendations as long as it's not Visage. I will not play that. People said it's so scary that they just couldn't do it. I was like, nope, done. I mean, I might give it a try, but the minute I'm like, I'm done. But Fear, same setup. You start off as I think you're in like a military unit or like a SWAT unit or something,
Okay.
and you're going through a facility, and all of a sudden this little girl pops up, and it's like straight up The Ring. Not that
Ugh.
bad, not that bad, not that bad. She's
Uh,
she's more of like Evelyn from Resident Evil 7. She's got
okay.
powers, and she is just messing with your mind. But there's this other guy who's, again, I think a serial killer that you're chasing, but he's just messing with all kinds of stuff. And they're both, no, they were not both made by Sega. Condemned was made by Sega. Fear was made by the people who did the Shadows of Mordor games. But as you're going through, at least in the first one, because the second and third one became way too action heavy, and they kind of dropped the whole psychological, like, messing with your head thing. But this game I'm going through, and I'm just like, I played them both at the same time, and I'm just like, man, these games just you start seeing things, you start hearing things, you start seeing flashes on the screen. You're like, oh, it was essentially, when you think about it, it was Silent Hill pretty much. And I'm just sitting here like, man, these games, they're just messing with your mind. And I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, I know people have mentioned Fear Effect. Not Fear Effect. Fear Effect, I think, was a horror game ish too. I'm not sure. But Parasite Eve, I see Claire talking about that. I love playing
Ooh.
Corpse Party on the PSP. I never played Corpse Party, but I've heard of it. Um,
Survival horror with RPG, and it was made
so
on
let's
RPG
see.
Maker.
Jeremy says, why are you not working? Oh, I can just look at it over here. Random dungeon generator. Find the exit. Find some gold. Letters from victims left behind, and a key/relic before leaving. And the creepy boss chases you if found spirit. But then you make more noise. So
Sprint, but then you make more noise.
Um,
Ah!
I
I
gotta
hate
talk.
running.
I gotta talk about the biggest mess with your head game, Eternal Darkness. That game, and it's not the first one to do it. I'm gonna say real quick, Metal Gear Solid had one of those moments where it screwed with your mind. It's not technically horror, but when you get to the Psycho Mantis boss fight, it is kind of spooky. Because you
Eternal
hear
Darkness,
this,
I thought was scary.
yeah, well, you hear this weird music, and I'm just talking about Metal Gear real quick. You hear this weird
Mm,
music, and then the screen just goes black, and it says Hideo or Hideo. I thought it said Hideo. I was like, what the hell happened to my TV screen? What the hell happened to my TV? Psycho Mantis is messing with you, and he's like telling you, "Hey, put your controller on the floor, and I'm gonna move it with my mind." You put it on, oh, okay, whatever, you idiot. And it's like, oh my god, it's moving. It was the
no.
coolest damn thing ever. But then he goes, let me read your mind, or in fact your past. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. What are you gonna tell me what I did when I was 3? And he's reading the memory card. He's like, oh, you like Castlevania, don't you? I'm like, I do have a Castlevania save on this memory card, so that's probably. It was just one of those cool things. I mean, not technically the game's not horror, but that one fight was horror. But Eternal Darkness pulled a lot of the same tricks. You're going through and it'll just say, "Oh, you died." I'm like, "Oh, what the hell? I didn't die. What happened? I'm dead."
Yes.
And then it goes back. You're like, "Oh, you son of a bitch! You
Yep.
you are over here telling me I died and I didn't." And that was just one of them. I mean, I've never finished the game, but I do want to play it again, but that's just one of the tricks. And I've heard people say that you go through the game and it'll tell you your memory card's been erased. It's been everything's been deleted, and it's just, people are like, what the hell? My memory card's been
Yeah.
deleted, and it turns out it wasn't. Or it'll tell you to shut the game off, or it'll say your system shut off, or it'll just restart the GameCube, which is crazy. And I'm like, what's going on here? So it's one of those games where it's just like you got to know what you're getting into, and I kind of do want to play it on the stream just to see what happens. I want to find a guide that's not going to spoil it for me because I want to be
Mm,
surprised. I already know some of them, but there's some that I don't remember or ever saw. So I'm like, well, we'll
yeah.
see. Metal Gear Solid 3 did have the
The Ghost Realm.
yeah. I forgot how to get it. It's a dream this boss has, and it's like the thing behind that was they were trying to make another game, and they threw it into Metal Gear Solid 3 as a like testing ground to see if anybody liked the game. Some people liked it. I was kind of like, that was random as hell, but they ended up not doing it, and it was gonna be a lot like that, where it was gonna be the, hey, we're gonna have a hack and slash, thing. The suffering, I want to say, counts as a messing with your head game too. If anybody's ever played the suffering, it's basically you're in a prison. Um, I never played the second one, but the first one, you're in a prison, you're going through, and like, you'll see monsters running across, and then you think you're getting attacked by something, but you're really not. And it's just one of those games, and I'm like, can you not,
Mm,
like, it was the first game I ever played with my buddy. We're like, hey, we gotta turn the lights back on. I can't do this in the dark. It is freaking me out way too much. So we turned on a lamp and kept playing it. There's a guy in there named Dr. Killjoy. He's a ghost doctor,
mm.
but you also turn into a monster in the game at one point. So you like Hulk out and just wreck shop on everything. It was made by Midway, and it's probably one of the better games they released in the 2000s that was not Mortal Kombat. They had some decent games, but Midway was not the best at making games. We all know that. They were almost as bad as Acclaim, and neither one of them are with us any longer. So may they, they gotta rest in peace. They were not the best.
I said
um,
Parasite Eve 1 and 2 are pretty good. Unfortunately, never finished them.
I started Parasite Eve. Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? I think I'm missing some.
Yeah.
I'm missing some chat. Thankfully, you're catching up with the chat with me because I saw it, but I meant to say it. Parasite Eve, I started. I really need to use a guide for that game because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And at one point, it was like, go to whatever. I'm like, okay, where's whatever? And I'm just running around the police station. I said, you know what? No, I'm gonna play this later. Um, I heard 2 was not as good as the first one, and then they had Third Birthday, which I heard is just not the best, not the best game at all. But I'll reserve judgment on that one because I really wanted to play it. I guess
Yeah, as it goes for psychological, Eternal Darkness is probably the only one I ever played that was psychological horror. And I was probably like 12 when it came out. I'd have to look. And that was just something I never would have picked. Yeah, it was 12. It was '02. So it was definitely something I never would have picked on my own,
Hmm.
but I don't know why I liked it. It like drew me in and I decided to get it. But it was the beginning isn't scary. You're like, okay, your uncle died or something like that. And you have to go into the house, which is a huge mansion and it has all this hidden stuff. And you're like, oh, it's a mystery. Okay, this is cool. Um, but it's like he was murdered there. Why was he murdered there? Who murdered him? And then you're going back like in time and you're other people
Yeah,
and
that
it's
was pretty cool.
it's so trippy. You're like, okay. And all the puzzles and of course dying multiple times. You're dead. Like, no. But it's a really good mixture of a lot in one. It's
Hmm.
like a I don't know. You don't have weapons when you're your usual self, but like you could be somebody else and you're fighting all this darkness and stuff like that. But it really tripped me out as a kid.
Yeah.
Just thinking this in depth into it. I'm like, why am I even playing this? Like, this is making my imagination go wild. I really enjoyed it though. I wish I still had it. I think it's one of the two video games I do not still currently own. Um, I don't know why I got rid of it, but I would definitely play it again. Cause
I
and now that I'm older, I can like get my head around all that and definitely
yeah,
finish it.
I never owned it. I just rented it from Blockbuster. Rest in peace, Blockbuster. Um
There's one left.
there's one left and there's a TV show coming to Netflix about it. Um which is ironic because they killed Blockbuster. Anyways, I
Uh-huh.
rented it and I never finished it. And I wanted to. I so many years went by and I just never picked it back up again. And I saw it at a used bookstore and I bought it for
Ooh,
$40. Okay. Back then I said, man, $40, that's expensive for a pre-owned game. I will never complain about the price of a pre-owned game again. If it's 40, 50, $60, I will not complain with how some of those prices are these days. Like, good
yeah.
God, like these people are insane. You can't even get a copy of Silent Hill for less than $200.
No.
Um, I mean, you can, but you got to be like looking in the right places. But yeah, Eternal Darkness was just one of those games that just really screws with your head. Did you know it actually was a PlayStation game at first? Um,
Oh.
it was started on the PlayStation because Silicon Knights was doing Blood Omen. We'll talk about that one later when we get into like vampire games, um, or monster games. We can probably categorize those under two things, but they they started on PlayStation and then they shifted to GameCube. Kind of like what happened with Two Human. They started on the N6 PlayStation, then they shifted to the N64, and then they came out on 360. And then because of some lawsuit going on with them, they were like, "Hey, you got to destroy every single one of these games. Get rid of them. Get them out of our sight." So that's a whole story for another episode. It's not really a horror game, but that was just Silicon Knights is attached to it. So yeah, it started. I remember reading and seeing stuff about it for PlayStation and I said, it's kind of cool. And it was around the same time they were talking about a Buffy the Vampire Slayer game. I was like, oh, this game looks kind of like Buffy, so cool. Shifted it to GameCube, and that's where it remained. We never got a sequel. They were supposed to, I think they were supposed to make one. There was Dennis Dyack, the guy who worked on it, came out and said, hey, we got a game coming out called Shadows of something, Eternal Shadows, or something like that. And
Something like that. Yeah.
it was something that was supposed to happen, and it never happened. So we're like, oh, okay, well, what to do?
Do you
Um,
remember the game called Carrier? I've never played it. My friend said it's like Resident Evil.
Carrier Carrier got
Uh-oh.
destroyed by Code Veronica.
Oh.
So, real quick before we jump into that, what is your top psychological? Everybody, what is your top favorite psychological horror game? I'm going with Eternal Darkness, just because of all the
Same.
crap that happens in that game. I'm going with that one.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going with that being the top psychological horror game, and I guess we can jump into the Resident Evils or the survival horror style games.
Survival
Um,
horror.
so Sweet Home. Well, real quick, Carrier got destroyed by Code Veronica. It came out, I think, a month after Code Veronica released in 2000, and Code Veronica just wiped the floor with that game. I have it, and I never got to play it. I played a demo for it a long time ago. It's essentially the same setup as that game Cold Fear. You're on, I believe, a ship If I'm not mistaken, you're on a ship and you're going through. It's a very Dreamcast game. It looks the graphics are just like Dreamcast era, but it's just one of those games that had it not been for Code Veronica, it might have done really well. It might have been the survival horror game for the Dreamcast, but because it came out after Code Veronica, they kind of just it just got destroyed by it. So it's a shame because the game's pretty fun from what I played. Um, Now we can't talk about survival horror without talking about Sweet Home, and I see them mentioning this here. Sweet
Yeah.
Home was basically the original Resident Evil on Nintendo.
Oh,
Same setup, same concept. Group goes into a house, they get picked off one by one. It's actually based off of a TV show that was popular in Japan at the time. And Resident Evil was supposed to be a remake of it. This is what I heard. It was supposed to be a remake of it. They wanted to bring it back, and they said, well, we can't bring it back because the US audience has no idea what Sweet Home is. So what they did was they just made it an entirely new game. Something I found out too was that Resident Evil started on the Super Nintendo. I guess if they were going to remake Sweet Home, why not put it on Super Nintendo where it looks like a better version? So that I don't believe there are any images of that anywhere. I think it was just in the like talking phases, and then they moved it to PlayStation, just like they moved GoldenEye to N64 from Super Nintendo. And then Super Nintendo, Mission Impossible got moved from Super Nintendo to N64. So a lot of games that we never knew were supposed to be on that system are now on other systems that we know well today. But I I think Resident Evil, I mean, really Alone in the Dark kind of started the whole tank control thing, but Resident Evil is probably the one that solidified it for gamers. That was the one that
yeah.
said, "Hey, here's the tank controls. Here is the fear, the scare, the piss your pants moments." Alone in the Dark, it's fun, but it just looks goofy to me. Like I've played the old ones, and I'm just like, this game looks goofy as hell to me. It's not that doesn't seem that scary to me. And whereas Resident Evil, I played it, and I'm like, I can't sleep because this
Ooh,
game is
yeah.
too freaky. And the first time I ever played it, I was like, ooh. So question for the Resident Evil segment of the show. What was the first Resident Evil game that you guys ever played? And which one is your favorite? So I'm going to go with the first one. I started with the first one. But what about you, Mittens? What was your first Resident Evil game?
I think it
Remake?
was the first one. No, I think it was the first one. When you first start the game and you're going through, if it's a hallway and you're trying to get to learn the controls,
Mm,
um, and then the zombies just start coming out of doorways and you're stuck and you can't go back. That was the first one I ever played, and I panicked. I was very young. It was my brother's game. He pretty much did it to scare the crap out of me, so I'll never play on a system ever again. It worked, but I watched him play them. And I enjoyed to see the puzzles and the horror in it, not being the one participating. I
yeah.
did play Village though, and I greatly enjoyed that. I completed it all the way through, um, all by myself, no spoilers, no one helping me out, holding my hand. So I really enjoyed that game just because of the storytelling and the different
Yeah.
zones, except for the freaking doll zone. I hate dolls, so I hated that part,
Wait,
but it was
which doll
short.
zone?
The dollhouse
You talking about
with the
Village?
creepy baby.
You talking about
Yeah.
Village? Oh, I thought you were talking about the original Resident Evil.
No, no, no. I said that was the first one I played, but my
Oh,
favorite
oh, yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
Village.
Yeah, Village. Don't talk about the baby. That
The
thing
baby killed me
creeped
twice.
me out. I saw it before. I saw it on Twitter before I even got to that section. I was like, "What the hell is that thing?" And
Didn't even know.
when I finally got to it, I was like, "It's just a monster." And I finally got to it, I was like, "Okay, whatever." It's just this weird baby thing, and I did not expect it to pop out when it popped out. I was like, "Oh, what the hell is that thing?" I think I died by it once too because I didn't hide properly.
Yeah,
Um,
they
have I?
wanted you to run from it
Yeah.
before going back to the elevator.
Let's see. And have I ever told you my story of how I got into Resident Evil? Okay,
No, I
I'll
don't
go
think
ahead.
so. We discussed it a lot though.
I'll tell it again for like the umpteenth time because I love telling that story. It's pretty crazy how I got into it. But I want to read these comments first. So let's see.
Yeah.
Resident Evil director's cut. Once that SOB turned his head. Yes, yes. The first zombie you come across.
Ooh,
Igor says originally Shinji Mikami would use ghosts in Resident Evil and would be played in. Yes, he wanted it to be in first person
ghosts.
view. If you ever look up the beta footage of Resident Evil 1, there's a lot of differences in that game. Like the snake shows up in the little middle area between the mansion and the guardhouse.
Oh, the
Snake
big
shows up there.
basilisk.
Was that?
Was it the big basilisk one?
Yes, the one that you had to
Yeah.
fight. Um, First Resident Evil I played, but not the first. Finishing was 3 Nemesis. God, Nemesis. We're going to talk about that one. Favorite Resident Evil was remake of 1. There's some
Favorite is
people who
remake.
don't like the original Resident Evil because of the FMV cutscenes. It was the 90s, okay? That was one of the things I loved about it. And you're going to find out about, well, talk about that at the end of the episode. It has to do with future project. Let's see. Claire says I had a DualShock version, but the original Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica are her favorites.
Ooh,
Still need to
I
play
still need to play
Village.
Village. Ooh.
7, I might get back into 7. 7 was not my favorite. The
Yeah, I
remake
didn't
of
get to
1,
7.
amazing. Hands down, best remake ever. After that, everybody's like, we're going to remake our game, we're going to remake our game, and our game, and our game, and our game. It's like, your game sucks, Metal Gear, you're cool. Your game sucks. No. Um, Resident Evil Remake was probably the game that kickstarted the whole remaking games thing. You know, that was the first one that everybody was like, and when it first got announced, I said, the rumors were flowing. They're like, oh, they're going to remake every Resident Evil 2, 3, Code Veronica, and they're gonna put them on
Yeah.
GameCube. No, what happened was they ported them to GameCube. They weren't remaking them; they were just porting them. And those copies are stupid expensive now. I saw Code
Mm-hmm.
Veronica at a retro shop, and those fools wanted $400. I'm like,
Woo!
no, thank you. That's the cost of a PS5 almost. Just give me
Jeez.
$100 more, and we'll be good. But no,
Random's like RE2, not the remake. That's his
RE2,
favorite.
yeah. RE2 is definitely my favorite, and Code Veronica is my second favorite. I'll do my top 5 in a minute, but what got me into Resident Evil was I was reading a Game Informer magazine when I was probably in 4th grade or 5th grade. Had to have been 4th grade because I was about 96ish, and at the time I was playing Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I still play that game a lot,
Mhm.
and so I get the magazine in the mail. It says Resident Evil. I was like, whoa, what's this? This zombies. This is cool. This is kind of interesting. And so I'm reading it, and I'm like, man, I really want to play this game. And I just didn't have a PlayStation. I was still rocking the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, so I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. And I kept seeing commercials, and my kid mind thought that Resident Evil 2 came out in 1997, which it was supposed to come out in
Mm.
97, but they canceled it and ditched it, Resident Evil 1.5, and gave us director's cut instead. So I kept seeing commercials, and I saw a commercial for Resident Evil 2, and this is 1998. So as a kid, you're thinking when you're going from 5th grade to 6th grade, you're thinking, oh, that was last year. Resident Evil 2 came out last year. No, it was the same damn year. It was still 1998. It's just my kid mind was like, hey, that game came out last year. So finally got a PlayStation, and I didn't get Resident Evil. I did not play it for a whole year after I got my PS1 because I was playing Metal Gear and Crash Bandicoot and just a bunch of other games. Completely forgot about Resident Evil, but I did have a demo disc that had that trailer for Resident Evil 2. The one that still scares me to this day when I watch it because you just hear the zombies growling in the background. You're like, oh. So 1999, I'm reading another magazine. I think it was Expert Gamer or something, or Tips and Tricks, one of those magazines, and they had this thing called Dino Crisis. I'm like, Dino Crisis? What is this? It says from the creators of Resident Evil. I was like, well, okay, I'm interested because they make the zombie games, but I like Jurassic Park a little bit more. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to play the game is because I love Jurassic Park. And I was looking at the gameplay. I said, this looks pretty awesome. I do want to play this game. And I was still pretty high on The Lost World at the time. Like, I was
Mm.
still pretty much big into that movie. And I think Jurassic Park 3 was getting rumblings coming out soon, and I was like, okay, they got my Jurassic Park fever again. And when it came out, Blockbuster just didn't have it for like the first month or whatever. I think it came out in July. They didn't have it for a while, and I was like, what the hell? I kept going to Blockbuster. Still don't have it. Still don't have it. Still don't have it. And I remember one Friday night, I went to Blockbuster to rent something, and they didn't have anything. They didn't have Resident. I was just looking for whatever. They didn't have Resident Evil 2 because that's the one I wanted to play. They didn't have Resident Evil 1. 3 was not out yet. It was coming out like 2 months after that, and they just didn't have anything. So I rented Rampage World Tour. It's back there on my wall, piece of crap game. And I told my mom the next day, I was like, "Look, this game stinks. I want to go to the store and buy something." So we went to the retro shop, which it yeah, it kind of was a retro shop at the time because they were still selling Nintendo and Super Nintendo, like all the older games plus the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
And the guy says we go to pick up Dino Crisis, and he says, "Oh, it's $50," and she's like, "That's too much," you know. So he's like, "Okay, look. You might want to try this game instead." And he gives me Resident Evil Director's Cut with the demo for 2, and he says, play this one because the controls are the same in this game as they are in that game, and that was his selling point, was the controls. He said you might not like the controls, try it out, see if you like it. If you like it, come back and get Dino Crisis. And so I played Resident Evil, same as you. I popped it in, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what I'm
Yep.
doing. I opened the map, and I'm like, I can't tell what's going on here. That's a red block, that's a blue block, that's a green block. What's
Hmm.
going on here? Because like I've been so spoiled by Metal Gear showing you where the doors are and where to go on the little mini map that I just
Yeah.
was expecting that. I was like, oh well, okay, I don't know where to go. And it took me a good probably 4 months to complete that game. And I was just going through, and I got everything I could without a guide. I was going through, picking up items, getting what I could, and I got to a point where I needed a helmet key, and I had no idea where it was. I was like, "Where's this key?" I kept asking. People like at school, like, "Oh, I love Resident Evil." I was like, "Well, can you tell me where the helmet key is?" "Oh, I didn't play it." "Well,
What?
how's that gonna help me?" And I just couldn't find this damn
It's for the
key.
clout.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm trying to find this key. It's like, where is it? And I'm going through, and I didn't realize I had to leave the mansion entirely to go. Like I already had the crests, and I had no idea what they were used for. Had no clue I needed to leave the mansion and go out to the other side. I printed up a guide on from my computer. Wasted a lot of ink. Okay,
Hmm.
that was not cool. And my mom, I don't think was
Got
very happy
mad
about
at
that because I
you. Yeah.
wasted so much paper and so much ink printing a guide from GameFAQs.com.
Oh my gosh, I remember
Yes, yes, game or
that.
FAQs. And it was arrange mode, so it showed me where everything was. And the thing about arrange mode is that everything is in different areas. It's like a randomizer almost. If you're used to the other game, it's like a randomizer. You don't know where anything is. It's all in different spots. And I was just like, oh, cool. I figured out where to go. And I finally was able to complete the game. When I did, I was like, hell yes, I completed this game. We can jump on and play Resident Evil 2, which I think I already had at the time. I kid you not, I beat Resident Evil 2 before I even completed the first game. And I beat Resident Evil 3 before I even completed the first game. Because I was just so lost. I said, screw this game. I'm done with it. I'm going to play the other two where I can actually complete it. And I know where to go. Because I had guides for them. I had a guide for 2 and 3 in the same magazine. But the one for 2 was for the N64 version, which was a technical marvel on their part. Yeah, that was my introduction to Resident Evil pretty much, was Dino Crisis. Everybody's like, oh, that's kind of backwards,
Nice.
isn't it? I said, not really. I mean, Dino Crisis is what made me initially play Resident Evil.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was kind of backwards. Like you showed interest beforehand anyway. So you were eventually gonna play it. It was
Yeah,
just, you wanted a Dino Crisis first, and you were like,
yeah.
we'll try this.
Eventually, I would have played it.
Mm.
I don't know that I would have played it probably back then. I probably, if I hadn't given it a chance. Well, also what kind of made me want to get into it was that Resident Evil 3 was coming out, and I was like, ooh, well, 2 looks awesome, so I want to play it. But I never really went to Blockbuster to rent Resident Evil because I was renting Metal Gear a lot in
Yeah.
that first year that it came out. I was renting it almost every weekend trying to complete that game without a memory card. I did it, and it was a feat. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do again without a memory card in one go. I started it after I got home from school, didn't finish it, and this was like 3:30, 3 o'clock. I didn't finish that game until like 9 o'clock at night.
Mm.
I was
No,
also
see,
skipping cutscenes, so that's probably, the game itself is a lot longer than that. But
There's no way. I'm not playing without a memory card.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, so moving on, I want to move on. This will be the Resident Evil segment. We'll just
Yeah,
call it
we're
that.
catching up with chat though. We did.
So Resident Evil 2. Oh, sorry, Resident Evil 1.5. Hold on. Let me back up on the
Yeah, yeah.
chat. Let me back up on the chat.
So Jeremy goes, did Bionic Commando get a remake sooner? It did bomb though.
Yeah. Um, Bionic Commando was not a good game on Xbox 360 and PS3. It was a fart in the wind.
It was what?
There was a whole story behind that game. I saw some of it on YouTube, and it was a mess. Um, Remake's graphics still look beautiful in 2002, and the game was released in 2002, 2 years after Code Veronica, which is visually dated but still an amazing Resident Evil. Alfred is still crazy. Yes, we actually just finished Code Veronica last week. No, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, because I started Dino Crisis after that. My mom
Resi
taught me how
goes,
to.
my mom taught me how to play
Yeah,
RE. It's the reason why I made that Twitter account in horror in honor of her memory. That's so awesome, Resi. That's a
yeah.
sweet memory.
She's got a
Your mom was
whole.
cool.
She's got a whole.
So cool.
She's got a whole Resident Evil page. Definitely check it out if you guys have not already. Um, I will.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Resident Evil 1.5 is interesting, but its RPD has a generic look. Brian Iron's office looks very boring in it compared to 2 with the dead slash impaled animals, brown color. Yeah, Chief Irons is crazy. He was not supposed to be crazy in the original version, and since we're moving on to Resident Evil 2, the game started development after after the first one, like probably like right after they finished it, and they canceled it for just a couple reasons. I think one of them being that it wasn't too connected to the first game. They wanted it to be more connected, and it like Igor was saying, a lot of stuff they just didn't like in the game. It just didn't look good to them. So like, we're gonna scrap it and start over, and that's why we
Yeah.
got director's cut, because they're like, hey, look, guys, we're sorry. Here's director's cut. It's the first game with all new camera angles, all new stuff, a new mode, and a demo for Resident Evil 2, which I did play on my channel recently. The demo is very, 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 very different from the main game. There's first off, the icon for Leon looks different. He looks more like a live action actor. Like, I think they might have been trying to go for the live action cutscenes again in Resident Evil 2, but they probably decided against it because his face model in the pause menu looks like that. It looks like a live action, like it did in the first game. But they changed that, and then some of the keys are labeled differently too. Like you have like a S key, a P key, a precinct key,
Hmm.
and then you ended up getting like the spade, the heart, the diamond, the I think that was all of them. The club. You get all those keys, and they're named different. So it was kind of cool to see that. And plus, Ada shows up way earlier in the game in the demo. She shows up in the police station when you go to the STARS office. And my kid mind thought that was Claire for some reason. I knew who Claire was, but when I first played the game, I said, wait, where's that girl that's in the motorcycle outfit with the blonde hair? Where's she at? Where's this person at? Where's that person at? I had no idea they canceled the original, because I would see articles in gaming magazines for the 1.5. They had all this stuff in there, and I did not know that they had canceled it
Oh,
because, as a kid, you don't really pay attention to stuff like that. You're just like, oh, the game's
yeah.
out. Oh, shiny. Me
Yeah.
once. I did not know that
It
about Ada's original name being Linda. That's
was
interesting.
Linda.
But Resident Evil
Yeah.
2 is one of those games that just, when they say a sequel isn't as good as the first one, that game surpasses the first one in every way, and it is so much. Love the original Resident Evil, but 2 just is like up here compared to the first game. It surpassed it in so many ways, and they added so many new things to it. The whole 2 characters where it's the same concept. You have uh, Leon doing his story, and you have Claire doing her story, and when you complete the scenario A, it goes into scenario B, and then you get to play the other person's story to see what they were up to. And when I first played this on Nintendo 64, I didn't know that, because there were saves all over the cartridge. It's like the ending, the beginning, the middle, the somewhere else in the middle, and I completed the game with a save, and I was like, oh cool, I beat the game. But I didn't play the game. I just completed the game because of somebody's game save there. And when I first played it and I completed scenario A, I was like, what the hell? Where's the fight with the big tyrant? What's going on here? And it turns out I needed to play through a whole second
Other
section in order to
section.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on Resident Evil 2 original?
The original. I
Yeah.
agree with you on how even though I mean it's a rarity that a sequel is better than the original. It really is. But for a while there, back to back to back, Resident Evil was making groundbreaking like just games for a while. Everybody playing those games were like, hey, it's a new aspect of a horror game. I love it. Up until pretty much like 4, I think. So it was always like somebody was like, this is amazing. They kept on innovating every single one they were doing, and they kind of dropped off for a while, and then they started building back up. So
We don't remember that. I don't remember
yeah, we
that.
don't remember that spot,
I don't
but
remember what happened. 2012? What? No, Silent Hill.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So they've experimented. They've had their ups and they had their downs, but they have a lot more ups than they have downs. So it's definitely a good it's a great game. Compared to 1, it is a great game. And then
Yeah.
forward, let's
Yeah.
see, Resident Evil 2 was 98. I was 8.
I was
I was not old enough to be playing the games. I was with my active imagination. I was not old enough.
I got a math. Hold on.
You're only a few years older than me.
I was 3,984 years old. Hold on. I did that math wrong.
Obviously.
I was 12.
Unless you're a vampire.
I was 12 when that game came out. Yeah, no, Resident Evil 2. Again, what gave me the push to play that was that it was coming out on N64. I was like, maybe I should play this game. And that was a technical marvel. I know I mentioned that earlier, but that game should not have even happened on the N64. There's no way in hell that game is even possible. They call it the impossible port for a reason, because they fit 2 discs into a single cartridge. And I've heard if you play it on an HD TV with an expansion pack, it kind of gets a little wonky. And they said, unless you have the jumper pack. I said, bro, my jumper pack from my original N64 is in the closet somewhere. So whenever I stream this game, it's gonna have to be the expansion pack. I'm gonna have to deal with the
wonk.
The wonk. Yeah, it'll do like a weird thing where it changes the resolution and everything. And I used to think it was just my cartridges. I thought, oh, this game's screwed up. No, it's because I was playing it on an HD TV. But it just, they fit so much into that game. Now, yes, the cutscenes are kind of gross on the N64. They're not the best, and the voice acting sounds like you're watching a Gumby cartoon. But the game itself, amazing on the N64. It's the only version that has the randomizer, the blood colors. You can change it to blue blood, green blood, red blood. Unlimited ammo is in the DualShock and the Dreamcast version. I'm pretty sure the GameCube version. But this is the only one that has an invincibility code. I didn't know that for the longest time. I'm playing it, or I was looking it up codes one time, and it says, what was it? No, when I got Resident Evil 2 for the N64, I said, well, I know there's an unlimited ammo code. Let me see what it is. And it's like, invincibility. I'm like, what? There's an invincibility code in this? And you can even unlock Hunk and Tofu without beating the game. You can play the mini game just putting in the button code. And I was like, son of a bitch. I didn't know that.
Up, down.
That is cool. Yeah, I wish. Actually, you know what? Yes. One of them is the Konami code. I forget which version, but one of them is the Konami code. All right, let's catch up with chat real quick before we move on.
Linda is a character in Outbreak. And he disliked the fact that Leon never met his boss, Brian Irons, and you would love to see it.
I don't know if Leon wants to meet Brian Irons. He's kind of a nut job, especially in the remake. Chief Irons is just crazy in that one.
Random's like, Leon is my fave. I do love Claire's A and B game too.
The original game holds a special place in your heart. Yes. I was 2 when Resident Evil 2 released. I'm old. Oh, another gray hair. 12 when Resident Evil came out. That's right, because Claire's the same age as me. I was playing as Leon in Resident Evil 2 for the first time, and I was going through the parking garage and it was after midnight when Ada took a shot. Yeah, I can imagine, dude. And I'm gonna talk about the spot that scared the piss out of me in Resident Evil 3. So, um, any final thoughts on Resident Evil 2 before we move on to 3?
Yeah.
It's awesome, and I
Are we
think
get?
everybody should play it.
Yeah.
We're gonna get what?
Oh, are we gonna speak about the unspeakable ones?
Yes, we are.
Oh
I'm not gonna
no,
say much. They're games. They happened.
they
That's
did
it.
happen.
I kind of don't want to talk too much about the modern games because they really are not that scary. Five is five. Six is sorry, threw up my mouth a little bit. Six is a game. It happened. Revelations is probably the closest thing we got to. Well, Revelations 2. Revelations 1, I wasn't a big fan of. I still played it, but I was not a fan of the enemy varieties. But Revelations 2 was a game that was kind of sort of getting its foot back in the water of, hey, we remember that we are scary. We want to make scary games again. But 7 is really when it kind of like came back and was like, hey, horror,
Yeah.
yes. And then
Yeah.
that's when they decided to remake. No, they announced the remake of 2 before 7 was announced. So we got the announcement for Resident Evil 2 remake in 2015. And everybody's like, oh my God, Resident Evil 2 is happening. Yay. We didn't get it for another like 3 years, 4
Mm-hmm.
years, because it came out in 2019. And I remember a guy at GameStop, I was talking about it. Now, we're going to jump back to 3 in a minute. I'm just getting the modern stuff out of the way first because I really don't want to spend too much time on that. But I was at GameStop and this guy says that was working there. I think he was a seasonal employee. And he's like, oh, Resident Evil 2 is not happening. And I was like, what do you mean the remake's not happening? He's like, oh, there's no demand for it. I was like, sorry, what? Are you on something, dude? Because what do you mean there's no demand for Resident Evil 2 remake? Have you not, where have you been the last, at the time, I think it was like, 13 years? I was like, where have you been since 2002 when we've been asking for this remake for years? He's like, oh, there's no demand for it. And I was like, whatever, you're full of crap. So
Yeah.
when it finally got announced, I went into the store and he's like, how can I help you? I said, I would like to pre-order Resident Evil 2 remake. That game you said would never happen. Thank you very much. And then I gave him a bad survey because of that one time. I actually saw that guy again when I went to go pick up Saints Row, and he was kind of a dick then. So I was like, oh, here's that survey. Sorry, I won't get into it, but I gave him another bad survey because he deserved it. Yeah,
I used to work at GameStop.
Resident Evil was kind of in a bad place for a while. For 2012, it's just a bad year for Resident Evil. Well, Revelations was okay. It should have been on consoles and not handhelds, but we had Raccoon City was just an awful train wreck that I put 50 hours into. Yeah, I played that game a lot. 6 was fun when you're playing as Leon, but then it turns into too much action for me. And my only gripe with 6 is that I felt like I was playing through the same story over and over and over again. I was like, okay, I saw this in Leon's, I saw this in Chris's, now I'm doing it with Ada and Jake. I can't. I may play it on a stream, but it's not going to be the full game. It'll probably be like Leon's campaign here, then Chris's another sometime down the road, then Jake's sometime down the road, then Ada's. Because if I try to do that game back to back to back to back, I'm gonna get burnt out on it, just like I did when I first played it. So, that is the unmentionables that happened with Resident Evil. Let's see, I'm gonna catch up on the chat real quick. I didn't really like much of Resident Evil Revelations 1, but Revelations 2, Revelations 2 is definitely a much better update. Resident Evil 4 has its moments of survival horror, like with the vertigo in the sewers, yes, and then the regenerators in the island. But obviously, it's an action shifted game, yes, and
Definitely.
a lot of people forget about that. We'll talk about that in a second. We're gonna jump into 3. I mainly want to talk about the OG Resident Evil. So 3 was a game that everybody talked about when it first released. Hey, you played Nemesis yet? No, that's awesome, man. Nemesis is so cool. And the demo came packed with Dino Crisis. It was funny because you got the demo for Dino Crisis in Resident Evil 3. You got the demo for Resident Evil 3. No, I'm sorry, Dino Crisis in Resident Evil 3, but my copy doesn't have the demo. It's just got the game. I do have the demo for 3 though, for Resident Evil 3. But it was just a game that I was like, holy crap, this game's awesome. And the moment that scared me, like what Random was saying about the gun shop, I was running through the police station, mind my own business, you know, la da da da, whatever.
My
Got the things I need to
business.
go, and I hear a crash. I'm like, "Pfft, the hell was that?" And it was a window crash. I said, whatever. And you hear Nemesis's music, and you're like, oh crap, he's here somewhere. You just don't know where. And you run past, you go downstairs, and you run right past that window, and it's in all the commercials. He just crashes through the window, and this is if you don't knock him down outside. He will chase you through the police station. And
Hmm.
I just went past the window and I hear crash doors. I'm like, oh! And I got my sister too. I did not tell her what was going to happen. And I said, just keep going, keep going. She's like, I don't want to. I just keep going. Nothing, don't worry, nothing's wrong. Just keep
What?
going. Keep going, keep going. You're good, you're good, you're good. Crashed through. She screamed, did the same thing I did. I was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I just wanted to see her reaction. She hated it. She was
Sure.
pissed. But 3 is one that innovated the Resident Evil games. Like they had and they never brought it back, the choice system, where you could
Yeah.
choose to fight Nemesis, run away, climb out of a hole, drop down, do this, do that. And depending on how you did certain things when you're starting up the cable car, you would get different outcomes. You'd fight Nemesis in different areas depending on where you went, which was really cool. And they never brought it back. That was the only game that really featured that kind of setup where you had that kind of differences in each of the pathways you chose. And you know, a lot of games have that now where it's like choose the path you want to take, and you might, you know, it'll do this or do that. But that was the first game where it actually was like it made you want to play the game differently each time. And I still do it. Every time I play the game, I play it a different way. I go a different path each time so that it's like a new game. I take that back. Survivor did that. Do we want to talk about Survivor? Survivor's a game. It happened. Um, Survivor did that. You could go through different. They have 3 pathways. You can go through all 3 of them. Different outcome, different cutscenes, different endings. Um, but what are your thoughts on the original Resident Evil 3?
Yeah. I definitely thought it was a great game to watch my brother play because he would have done the same thing you did and freak me out just like that. It was definitely I do like having choices.
Yeah,
That's basically pretty much what I normally play is anything that's story driven, and how you react to the game changes everything that happens later on. So I enjoyed that as something different. They should bring it back. They really should. Just for maybe the next installment, because there's so many ways that you could have done things, maybe even in the newer games, that would have made it a little bit more interesting and less linear.
yeah,
Um, and then change it up for every single person, so it wouldn't be the same thing over and over again. So yeah, I enjoyed seeing that playthroughs of that game
yeah,
specifically. Because then, who doesn't like Nemesis chasing you everywhere
yeah.
you go?
I mean, you can destroy him and knock him down, and he'll stop chasing you. But one day I said, let me see what happens if I just didn't feel like fighting him. I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna fight him. He's not gonna follow me. And that fool followed me through like 3 rooms, and I was like, oh my god, he's still following me. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot this fool with a rocket because I had unlimited rockets. I shot him. That son of a bitch dodged out of the way twice. I was like, oh, I shot him with a rocket. And he's like, whoop, stars. I'm
He's
like,
got
oh, okay,
skills.
I'm gonna get you again. He's like, whoop. And I was like, okay, Apollo Creed, take it easy. All right. Um,
Igor says Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is/was the bomb, plot-wise inferior to 2, but the gameplay is fun, exploring the streets and Nemesis being a stalker. Great game.
so what you were saying about bringing that style back, they really need to bring back. And Jill in the RPD thought Marvin Brenner was dead. He had just been asleep because of the bitten. The longest time when I played that, I thought he was dead. Like I thought, okay, he's dead. This is when he gets up and turns into a zombie. When you come back in 2, when you come back at a certain point, he does pop back up and he turns into a zombie, tries to bite your face off.
Yeah.
But with 3, I mean 2 had it also, but we had a stalker character. But Mr. X would not follow you from room to room to room to room like he did in the remake. He would just show up at certain times, scripted events. And real quick with Resident Evil 2, the one spot that did scare me with Mr. X was when you get the lighter not the lighter, the gear, the little cog. You light the little furnaces, and when you go to it drops, and you got to go across the room. So when you turn around and the minute you start walking towards it, boom, he's crashing to the wall like the damn Kool-Aid man. I'm like, ooh, and it
Oh
freaked
yeah.
me out, and I ran away from him. I was like, I don't have ammo to fight this guy because he's too big. I could have fought him. I had the Magnum and everything. I was like, I don't want to fight him. I left the room. I was like, okay, good. He's gone. Go around the corner. Kabam! Surprise! And I'm like, this son of a bitch crashed through 2 walls, and my heart can't handle this right now. And then if you do it at a certain point in remake, if you run away from him upstairs when he first shows up, and you run, if you're quick enough and you run downstairs and he doesn't follow you, you're thinking, okay, he's good. I didn't realize the first time I played it, this didn't happen. When I played it again, I was streaming it, and I'm going through, and my reaction, I still have it recorded. I'm going through, and I was like, oh fuck, what the hell was that? Because he just crashed through the wall, scared the living shit out of me. So I like that they kept that little detail in of him crashing through the wall from the conference room downstairs. So there's that. But Nemesis, he's just, and at one point he does stop following you. Actually, when you go to, I think after the train car, he does stop following you for a little bit, and then he does come back when you're playing as Carlos. He does show back up. You're thinking, oh, Nemesis is gone, and then you hear something like hitting the wall, and you hear his music. You're like, oh shit, he's here somewhere. Where is he? And he just crashes to the wall, screaming stars. Just give him a gold star, and he'll shut up. Um, but he crashes through, and you're like, oh my god. And this character, you got to remember, when you're playing this game without unlimited ammo, he is a pain in the ass, like
Mm-hmm.
serious pain in the ass. I did it on my Vita because I wanted to get the game save. I wanted to get unlimited ammo for the hard mode so I can unlock the epilogues, and I did it on my Vita, got the game save, transferred it to my PS3, and I was like, that game was not fun playing on hard mode. I did it once before. I don't remember how I did it, how I completed it. That was 1999, 2000-ish. My game save got deleted, so I just never went back and did it again. But that game was so. It was one of those games you're like, this is incredible. This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Resi's, I had to beg my mom to buy it in '99.
yeah, I think I
It was
begged my
rated
mom to buy
M
it.
for
No,
mature.
when I bought it, it was actually used. It was probably $20 at the retro shop I went to. The same one I went to get the first Resident Evil and the second Resident Evil. Um, and Silent Hill 2. That's the last game I ever bought there before they closed because they were doing some shady shit with Pokemon cards.
Ooh,
Um,
Random says RE. Hashtag was a good game.
he meant
RE3.
RE3.
RE3 was a good game, yeah. I accidentally broke his rocket launcher once. Oh
I think I did that
no.
once too, and he was not happy. Marvin's asleep body disappears when Nemesis appears. Maybe he went to the other rooms in order to give him time to go back to that office later and be clear. Yeah, more than likely. Nemesis 1999
Okay.
greater than Mr. X 1998, Mr. X
Mr.
2019,
19.
Nemesis 2020. I don't want to talk about the remake of 3 too much. I mean, the game was was outsourced, so they took a lot of areas out that they shouldn't have. Like, I remember people were worried that the alligator wasn't going to make it in Resident Evil 2 remake, and it was there. It's only in Leon's campaign. It's not actually in Claire's, but people were like, you got to keep the alligator. So, they're like, oh yeah, the alligator's still in the game, but that's because it was the team that worked on like the original Resident Evil 2, I think, or some of the team. And the team that worked on 3 really just they honestly just wanted to pump another remake out because people were like, well, now you got to remake 3. And they're like, oh hey, by the way, it's coming out. And it's like, a year after the second one came out? What? And they're like, yeah, we've been working on it at the same time. I was like, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good. That means it's not going to be good. And it was fun for what it was, but in the end, I got to go with the original for 3. Yeah, 3 make it's a game. It happened. Um,
Igor says, Survivor is cool, not amazing, but cool. Vincent was a great villain.
yeah, Survivor, we can talk about that a little bit. I kind of already did, but it it was the first one to go first person. It was more of the style of like not really arcadey like House of the Dead where you're just on rails moving all over the place. It was more of a legit first person Resident Evil game. You're going through in first person, you're shooting zombies, you're shooting hunters, you're fighting all kinds of monsters and monsters that probably have no reason even being in that game. The only zombies you ever see though are there are no female zombies in that game. If I can remember, there are no female zombies in that game. It's all dude zombies.
We just got smart and ran away.
Hmm. Um, no, they're all enemies except for the hunters. They're all enemies from Resident Evil 2. You got Mr. X, you got the zombies, you got the dogs are in all of them. You got the lickers, the hunters, the spiders, and the cleaners, which are like they sound like panthers when they die. But I think they were just using it was very much a budget title. I think it was like $40 when it came out or $30 when it came out.
Yeah.
And it was just recycling a lot of characters, a lot of enemies from the other games. So every now and then you're running through and you last time I played it, I think I ran across Mr. X like 4 times back to back to back. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's pissing me off. He will not go away. And at one point you fight like three, 4 or 5 of them in a row. You're just trying to run through and it's like you hear him stomping around, punching around like freaking Goomba from Mario Brothers, the movie. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Why are there so many of them? But the reason I initially didn't like that game is because I rented it and I completed it the same day I rented it, probably an hour and a half after I got home, played it, completed it. And my buddy was telling me at school, he's like, yeah, dude, don't play it. You're going to beat it real fast. It's a short game. There's no save points until you get to the end of the game. I was like, huh, that's whatever. Same guy that actually convinced me to get Silent Hill, which thank you for that. But Survivor, do you have any thoughts on that one?
No.
Moving on.
No.
Moving on. Actually, there's a few Survivor games. In case anybody didn't know this, there is Survivor 1. Survivor 2 is based on Code Veronica, Gun Survivor 2. It was released in arcades. I saw it once in the wild at a movie theater, never saw it again. And that's the first time we ever saw Nemesis in next gen because it was technically PS2 graphics. So it was Code Veronica, and it was released on PS2 in Japan and Europe, I believe, or maybe just Japan. Then there's Survivor 3, which is Dino Stalker, which is technically the third Dino Crisis game because Dino Crisis 3 does not exist, never happened, never will acknowledge that game ever again. Then there's a fourth one, which is Dead Aim, Resident Evil Dead Aim, and I've never played that one, but heard a lot of good things about it. So it is an interesting game. Uses the same concept as Survivor, but it's a little bit better from what I've heard. Then you have the arcade style shooters, the Umbrella Chronicles and the Dark Side Chronicles. Kind of sort of the same thing. They're basically retellings of the old Resident Evil. So 0, 1, 3, 2, Code Veronica. Speaking of, moving on to Code Veronica. Possibly one of the greatest Resident Evil games. Yes, the story is a little silly, but the gameplay and just the atmosphere of that game was and is still amazing. It was the first time I played a Resident Evil game where I was like, this game is hard as hell. I am getting my ass handed to me left and right, especially that fight with Tyrant on the plane. I'm gonna say it again. Whoever thought that was a good idea, I hope you stepped on a Lego, like multiple Legos. Bed of Legos, the pointy ones too, the ones that hurt. Barefoot, no shoes, no socks, barefoot. Code Veronica basically takes place a few months after Resident Evil 2. Because if you don't remember, Resident Evil 3 happens before 2 does, by like a day, and then Code Veronica takes place after basically 2 and 3. And I used to think, man, this game, because when Wesker shows back up, you're like, damn, he's been alive all these years. I'm like, oh, it's only been like a few months. So yeah, he is kind of, it's not that long. He is still alive. You find out later that, yeah, he is, alive. But it was probably the longest Resident Evil I played or at that time. Like the next longest one was 4. But yeah, no, you play as Claire, and if you've ever seen any of the early beta footage of it, they show her in her Resident Evil 2 outfit, and then they changed it to the outfit she has now, which I wish we'd gotten that other one as an unlockable, but there's really no unlockable bonus costumes at all in that game. It kind of sucks that they didn't do it, but a lot of people don't like Code Veronica. I don't know why. I really do not know why. I think part of it's because of Steve. Part of it's because of Alfred. Mm. Did you play this one?
No, I did not. It says, well, a couple people definitely want to say they had multiple paths in Survivor. That's why Igor liked it. So nice replay value. Jeremy left for his paper route, didn't die in Survivor while getting attacked by dogs. Igor said Survivor 2, the only Resident Evil from the PS2 that I never played, but it's not that important. It's only a dream of Claire in the plane.
Wait, is it really?
That's what Igor says.
Oh, when
It's
she
only
was
a
when she was
dream.
asleep. Oh yeah, because at one point you do sleep. She falls asleep in the plane, and Steve crashes into a Antarctic base because he can't fly a damn plane. He's like Harrison Ford when
Yeah.
he tries to fly a plane. Code Veronica is amazing. I love the Ashford property. It's funny that Claire left Rockford without Rodrigo. Yeah, like what the heck? She left
Funny.
him to die basically. Um, no, Code Veronica is essentially two games in one. So you play as Claire for the first half, and then you play as Chris the second half, pretty much, and then you play as Claire again for like all of a boss fight, and then he goes back to Chris. It's a fun game. I enjoyed. I still enjoy the hell out of it. I still play it a lot. And I think the next time I play it, I'm going to use the unlimited rocket launcher and just go through and just tear ass in the whole game. Um, then we didn't get Resident Evil games for another 2 years. Like they kept saying, "Oh, Resident Evil is coming to PS2." It turns out it was Code Veronica X, which has new cutscenes. I still think they were cutscenes that were in the Dreamcast version, and they just took them out and put them back in for the PS2 to get people to buy the game on PS2. Well, I think it was supposed to come out for Dreamcast also, and it might have come out in Japan, but not here. It did not come out
Mm.
here in the completed version. So they released it for PS2, had all the new cutscenes. That's about it. They fixed Steve's hair a little bit. He's still annoying, but for a while, yeah, we didn't get another Resident Evil for like a year, and that was when GameCube happened, when the remake happened. And they kept saying Resident Evil PS2, and it was not Code Veronica, it was another Resident Evil on PS2. And I thought, oh, cool. What's this going to be? Is it just going to be a new game? Is it going to be Resident Evil 4? Is it going to be, whatever? What is it? And about a month or two or three before GameCube came out, they announced Resident Evil Remake. And that was big news. That was very big news because they showed the trailer, the gameplay, the screenshots, and we're just like, oh my god, this game looks awesome. Looks so real. And it said GameCube only. I was like, oh no, I gotta buy a GameCube. I was not interested in a GameCube at the time. I just didn't want one. I didn't want that or an Xbox. I wanted just my PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So I knew I was getting a GameCube, and my poor Dreamcast. I sold it for a GameCube, and I ended up not buying a GameCube with the
No.
money. No. I sold my N64 for a GameCube.
Oh.
Ended up not buying a GameCube for or from the N64 money. I got Max Payne and Total Recall on Blu-ray. Worth it, but I didn't have enough to get a GameCube. Had I just saved my lawn mowing money, I would have had enough. I just needed a couple more bucks and everything, but it just didn't happen. So I sold my Dreamcast too, and that went towards the GameCube. Put the GameCube on layaway, and that was the first game I rented was Resident Evil. Played it without a memory card up to the underground area when I got crushed by a boulder.
Ooh.
And I was very mad because I was like, I'd gotten so far and I had to go back and do it again. And I
Mm.
told my dad, I said, I think it was my mom, I said, look, I need a memory card for this. I can't do this. I cannot play this game without a memory card. Which is why I love new systems. You can just save to the system, save to the internal memory, no problem.
Yup, yup.
But that's when they announced that Zero was also moving to the GameCube from the N64. Um, I kept because I was wondering what happened to Zero. We hadn't heard anything from it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's moving to. It's going to GameCube. They're changing it." They had stopped. They had halted the original version of it and just started reworking it into the GameCube graphics for the remake. And if you look at some of the footage of it, the cutscenes are still the same. Like the CG cutscenes are still pretty much the same. They're just a little bit prettier on GameCube and PS4 and the remasters and everything. So I thought that was kind of cool that the cutscenes still look the same, but she had her beret on her head like she did in the original version of it, whereas she didn't in the remake or the Zero, but you can unlock that costume in the remaster, which is kind of cool. I'll play it with the beta costume, but Zero was definitely a game that is not well loved. Not well loved. But what are your thoughts on Resident Evil Remake?
Uh, I'm just trying to catch up with chat real quick. Resi says she loves Code Veronica. Chris said in Code Veronica uses the STARS uniform when that unit had been already extinct during the game events. Maybe he's living in his past. People don't like Code Veronica because of Steve and the backtracking.
Yeah, the backtracking was pretty bad in that game.
Steve is just a teenager. People are harsh on him, and backtracking was always a part of the classic Resident Evil games, not exclusive to Code Veronica. I agree with that. I totally do agree with you, Gorwin, that maybe it was just a little bit more irritating in Code Veronica, but I mean, there was always backtracking.
It kind of was like in Code Veronica, there was a lot. Well, backtracking was not near as bad as it was in Zero, but it was, to me, it was not too bad in the older games. But Code Veronica, I felt like the backtracking was just a lot worse. Like there was the only part I didn't like was that I had to go all the way back to give Rodrigo the hemostatic medicine so he could stop bleeding, and I
Yeah,
had to go back and get the thrilling case. That's the only time I didn't like it. Other than that, it was really not that bad. It was tolerable, but there were some spots where you're like, okay, because they had you backtracking through hallways that sucked, like the hallway with the mobs. Hated going through that hallway.
yeah,
Just not fun. Not fun. But Zero definitely. A lot of people don't like that game because there's no item
yeah.
box, and you had to
That's what
drop
Igor just
stuff.
said.
Yeah, you got to drop stuff where it is, and that was always something they were gonna have in the game. They said from day one, no item boxes, and I'm like, how's that gonna work? And the cool thing is though that you can see the stuff on the map where you drop it, but you just got to remember where you dropped it. So what I tend to do when I play it, I go through and like let's say, okay, here's the mansion hallway, the main hallway. I'm gonna drop all my crap right here, and
Yeah,
then when I need to get it, I'll go back and get it. There's certain spots in like the guide I have where it says, okay, drop stuff in this hallway. You don't need it right now, and I always play the game with unlimited ammo, anyways, so I don't have a need to carry ammo
all
with
the
me. I just
bullets and
use
stuff.
the
Yeah,
Magnum or the shotgun or the more powerful weapons and everything. Um, but Zero was definitely a game that I love, but man, it was tough to get through with, especially with all of that item management stuff.
yeah.
It's probably the second longest game at the time, aside from Code Veronica. Um, did you ever play Zero or no?
No, 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 no. Jiggy Nuggy, Jiggy Nuggy.
So that I mean,
I watch.
it's a fun game. Like I said, it's fun to play, but just be prepared to not have an item box. Um,
Yeah, that's frustrating.
but moving on to the last of the, I guess, original before it shifted was Resident Evil 4. And everybody knows this game by heart. Resident Evil 4 was the one that pushed it into the modern world, the modern era.
Yeah,
Dropped the tank controls, which somebody did tell me tank controls are still technically in Resident Evil 4, either you just don't see them. You still have to stop and shoot. You still have to aim. And they also told me that Leon's movements with the knife are Chris's movements from Resident Evil Remake. They took that and put it into the other game and threw it on the Leon. That I didn't know. And this is from somebody who's like a diehard Resident Evil fan. And he told me that.
nice.
And I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. He was one of those, did you know fact people. I was like, no, I didn't know that. That's cool. Um, 4 had many variations. So, first variation being Devil May Cry.
Yeah,
It started as Devil May Cry. Well, Devil May Cry started as Resident Evil 4. They realized it was not going to be too much like that. They're like, this is too different from what we expected it to be. And I think you can even see like at least a concept art of what it looked like when it was Resident Evil 4. And it just shows Dante walking through one of the hallways with the, gun and everything, which is kind of cool. But they shifted it to, I'm just going to say the Hookman version because that's the one that kind of went back and forth. Like, hey, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, and they were gonna do it kind of like Silent Hill. The whole Leon infected was always gonna be there. And I remember them showing commercials in 2000, commercials, trailers in 2002. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And just for radio silence for like a whole year, we're like, what's going on with Resident Evil 4? They had dropped the idea of the Hookman and the Nightmare World versus the regular world because they're going to do like a Silent Hill thing. And they said it just would have been too much to develop. I heard it's because Konami was going to sue them for making it too much like Silent Hill. I, I will never know the full story, but that's what I was told. So that'd be interesting if that was what actually happened. Because when you think about it, the way they were trying to do it, yeah, it would have been too much like Silent Hill. But yeah, like Igor was saying earlier, the game starts off fine, very horror centric, very survival horror. And then once you get to a certain point, it turns into straight action. And people forget that they want to go on and say, oh, Resident Evil 5 was just all action, 6 was all action. I mean, they were, yes, but
Yeah.
4 was, there
What
was a lot of
started it.
action. It
Yeah.
started it. When you got to a certain point, it was all action. You had guys with machine guns shooting at you. That's not survival horror to me. That's just Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on Resident Evil 4?
Okay. No, I mean I agree with the action. It is technically survival, but it's not survival horror. So it's just, human on human battling each other. You can get that, like you said, Call of Duty, any other like war game. You play a Resident Evil for the horror and the action together. Like
Yeah.
that's how they were so good at making them. And it's now it's less actiony, but like more horror. But not really at the
And
same time. It's they experiment with a lot,
mhm,
and I think it's just because they know that if they keep on with the same formula, they're not going to get another wow factor, or they're not going to get another group of people playing their game and stuff
yeah.
like that. So every kind of genre does this little experimentation, and like I said before, there's the ups and the downs. There's the
Yeah.
good ones and the bad ones.
I mean, there's an abundance of
Mhm.
ammo in that game. Like, you shoot a bird and you get shotgun rounds. I mean, if you're smart with your ammo, then there's a lot of ammo left over in the game. But if you're playing like just shooting guns blazing everything, you're gonna run out of ammo very fast in the game.
Yeah,
But that was one thing I didn't like is I was like, there's just too much ammo in the game. Like, I want to go back to the old ones where there's like no ammo and you're like, oh crap, I got 3 bullets left and I gotta make them count before I can find another thing of handgun ammo. So 4, 5, and 6 just it's ammo just out the ass
everywhere.
basically. Igor says 4's plot is not my favorite, but the game is amazing. Yeah, the plot's kind of silly, but the game is amazing. I do still play the game from time to time. I'm actually still working on it right now for when I do stream it later next year sometime. Um,
Too much ammo, says the man who does infinite ammo.
yeah, well, no, not every gun has unlimited ammo in Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So in Resident Evil 4, there's like 2 guns, and it's a rocket launcher. Sorry, 3 guns: rocket launcher, hand cannon, and the Chicago typewriter. And all 3 of those guns break the game. So I'm like, I don't want to use them. I want to play the game without them, and it's a lot
Yeah.
harder than I thought. I'm like, man, I don't remember playing this game or last time I played it with like no unlimited ammo. So I only really use the unlimited ammo on 2 and 3, because those games are pretty hard at times,
Yes,
and
they are.
they just kind of throw zombies at you, and you're like, oh Jesus. Um, but that is about it for Resident Evil. I know that. Well, if you want to talk about Outbreak, we can, but I mean that's basically just retelling the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3. It's basically just an online game. You have different scenarios. I didn't play much of it to really gather a opinion. I played it once, beat it once, and I really never went back. You know what? I can talk about it when I stream it. I'm planning it. I just don't know when. Um, so what's the next? Because I feel like we spent a lot of time on Resident Evil. What
Yeah,
is
we
the
did.
next? I mean, there's a lot of Resident Evil, so we couldn't
There
just
is.
go through.
You can't brush over it.
We had to talk about the originals, like the scary ones. But what is? Do you want to talk about the obscure horror games that like people might not know about or have heard about?
I mean, there are other survival horror games that we haven't touched on that are actually really good.
Yeah,
Like Until Dawn was an amazing horror game that I actually completed and played through
I watched
and
that
has
stream.
yeah, and you have different and it's definitely decision based. So
Hmm.
everything you do changes the outcome of the game permanently.
Yeah.
So there's like I don't know, so many endings that you can have in that game and the scares are great. There's jumping, there's a little bit of psychological in there. There's a little bit of like normal like slasher type stuff and then there's mystical stuff too. So it's a combination of all kinds of things in this one game and it's really good. I if you haven't played it, you should definitely play it.
Yeah, that was a game. It took
Yeah.
me a good minute to complete that one because it was so massive. I was trying to I mean, it's not the longest game,
No.
but it's the fact that I was just exploring and looking out for everything. It just took me a long time to complete it because I was trying to see everything there was. And Until Dawn is amazing. And I say, if you loved Until Dawn, you really need to check out The Quarry. That game,
I can't wait, I want
I
to.
won't spoil it, but it was not what I was expecting to happen. I thought it was just gonna be a killer. Nope. There is way more to it than that. I was like, oh, okay.
They
Um,
did- Oh, that's what they did in Until Dawn too. So it's like you don't know what's gonna happen, and then when things did, you're like, wait,
yeah,
what?
really
They've
awesome
added
game.
that now?
I mean, there's also the Dark Pictures anthology, which is from the same people, but I hear that one. I don't hear people talk about that one near as much as Until Dawn mainly, and the Quarry. Well, mainly Until Dawn. I mean, I don't hear a lot of people talking about the Quarry. Like, I think it was one of those games that came and went. But it's still a fun game. You got like The Walking Dead, similar situation where you make the wrong choice, you kill a character who might or might
Yeah,
not show up in the following games because there's 4 seasons of those. And if you kill a character in season one that's supposed to be in other seasons, they likely won't show up at all.
yeah.
So that was pretty interesting how you had those branching paths too. You had to make sure you didn't screw up or say the wrong thing. And I got some characters. Well, I think with Walking Dead, there are characters that are supposed to die no matter what. No matter what you do, they're
Yeah.
supposed to die either way. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But like Until Dawn, The Quarry, Dark Pictures, you can actually keep everybody from dying. And I tried my damnedest to keep everybody from dying in The Quarry. And then there was one spot where somebody got infected, and it's like,
Ah,
shoot him. I was like, no, don't shoot him because that'll kill him and I'll lose a character. And he ended up killing somebody anyways. I was like, oh,
dang it.
well, shoot. That's one down. And then there's another spot where you had to be very precise in killing one person. And I got like 4 people killed, but 3 of them were supposed to die. And I was like, oh, fuck. Damn it. So I'll tell you what, though, when I finished the quarry, I had more people left alive than I did in Until Dawn. I had 2 people left alive in Until Dawn when I finally completed the game. And with the quarry, I had probably a good chunk of them still alive.
Nice. Well,
Um,
how many do you start with in the quarry?
So you start with well, it's not just the group. There's other people
Oh,
that can get killed who aren't even part of the group. So trying to think, it's like 5 or 6 people that start off in the group, and then you have other people that you play as later in the game. You have 2 people you start off in the prologue, then you have each chapter is like 2 people that you play as. So you have two, so it's about 8. But the thing is, the 2 in the beginning, they get captured, but then I won't talk about it because it spoils. But there are other aspects that happen in the game where you're like, shit, I just got 5 people killed because I didn't have a quick enough trigger finger to shoot that thing over there. And
yeah.
there's accessibility options where you can basically make it just play the game by itself. It's just auto everything, and it just boop 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 and goes through. So I think when I play it again, I'm gonna have the auto shoot. I'm gonna have a little guide that says how to save everybody, keep everybody alive. And there's certain spots where it says, okay, turn on auto shoot. That way it will automatically shoot because the aiming is not the best in that game. It is very jittery, and I was trying to shoot something, and I hit the wrong button, or something happened, and it jolted and got 5 people killed. Just like in Until Dawn, I Hayden Panettiere, I got killed by accident because it's like holds, the scenes where it's like hold the controller still, and I'm
Yes.
like, okay, and one slight move and boom, she was
Shit.
dead. I was like, God.
Yeah.
So there's spots in Until Dawn where you have to, not Until Dawn, Quarry, where you have to hold your breath. And I said, you know what?
Ah!
No, 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 no. We're gonna keep that auto. It's gonna just auto do it. I don't want to be dealing with that crap. And then you can actually make the quick time events a little bit easier. Because when I first tried one, I screwed it up like 3 times. I was like, you know what? There's gotta be an easier way to do this. And there is. You can make, like I said, you can make everything just auto. A lot of Sony games do
Wow.
that. You can auto finish the puzzles in God of War. You can auto finish the puzzles in Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure you can do the same in Ghost of Tsushima. There's actually one option where you can actually make some of the challenges a little bit easier in Ghost of Tsushima. If anybody's played it, there's a thing we have to do bamboo strikes, and that shit is insane. You gotta literally just hit the buttons like L1, R1, R2, L2, square, X, circle, circle, square, X, up, down. I'm like,
Yeah, there's no
ain't
way.
happening, ain't happening, ain't happening. PBD did it. I don't have no idea how she did it, but she did it.
Because
Um,
she's got skills. Rusty's
but
like, what about Heavy Rain? That's a good game.
I never played Heavy Rain, but I really want to. Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, I want to play. I did
And
play Detroit.
then
Detroit was
Detroit.
from those same company that did Heavy Rain and um, Beyond, and I got multiple people killed in that game that I didn't want to die because I made stupid choices. One of them I could have saved by not being a jerk to him, and it's like, you played Detroit, right?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but there's a spot where a character's falling, and you can either choose to grab him and pick him up, or keep running. And I kept running. He didn't
Ah,
die, but he got back up, and he's like, "You son of a bitch! What the hell?" And it's like, bro, you've been hating on me the whole game. Like, what do you think I'm gonna do? Just all of a sudden be like, "Yeah, cool. Let's save this guy who's it's Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs, Lex Luthor from Superman, and Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob." And I'm like, and Hades from God of War. They were like, "You've been shitting on me the whole game, dude. So I'm not gonna save you." And then I should have saved him because choices happen later in the game. You're like, ah, damn. And I got one of my androids killed by accident. I just, again, first time playing, somebody's gonna die. Somebody's almost always
yeah.
gonna die in those games.
I think
Um,
I had 4 or 5. I think I had 4 people survive my first playthrough of Until Dawn. And I could have had the one guy I didn't like the entire time, but eventually was like, okay, he's not so much of a jerk. He's just misunderstood.
who was
Like,
that?
the jock.
Oh, freaking Ward from Agents of Shield. I know who you're talking about. I met that guy.
Yeah.
I met that guy at a Comic Con after Agents of Shield season 1, and I said, "Hey, dude, what the hell, man? You turned to the dark side." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry." I was like, "God." It's like, "You're so cool up until that point. I hate you." No. He's a nice dude. Yeah, no, same thing. I was kind of annoyed with that. He's one of the ones I had survived too. Him and his ex survived. I was like, "Well, that's awkward." Um,
Yeah. Well, he actually died for me, but I could have saved him. I just didn't think about it. I was just like, oh no, let me just
and
run or something. And I was like, no, I should have done that.
it's the one game that has Freddie Mercury in it.
I know,
He is in
Rami.
that. He's also the villain in the last James Bond movie. He's not in it for very long, but he played a good villain.
Rami's not. He's not really a villain. He's just really messed up.
Yeah, well,
And
after what happened,
yeah.
it kind of screwed him up. Let's see. I played Clock Tower on PSP. The Scissor Dude chasing you is pretty intense. I never played Clock
Woo!
Tower, but I've heard some pretty. I heard it can be intense with the scissor guy. Clock Tower is another type of survival horror game. It's more of a point and click ish game. I hear the PS1 version is a lot better because the SNES version is just super slow
Mm.
getting through room to room. So they say the PS1 version is far better. Speaking of other survival horror type games, also have The Thing. You get into movie-based games. You have The Thing, which is a lot like the movie. I never watched at the time. I did not watch the movie, so I had no idea how the game worked. And I'm going through, and it's like, okay, is this person the Thing? Like you have to do the whole blood test. I'm like, nah, they're not the Thing. And then I was like, oh Jesus, I'm dead. And I don't think I ever finished the game because of that. I was just confused on what to do. I really want to play it again and give it a second chance. I was just confused on how it worked and what to do in the game. Because also, you really could not see a lot of what was going on in the game. It's very snowy, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? I can't see anything. Um, when I played Heavy Rain, all my characters died. Oh my god. So there's The Thing. You have the Evil Dead games. Evil Dead Hail to the King, which is a Resident Evil style game, Resident Evil clone. I played that recently, and I have no idea how I can lead in that game because the controls are so goddamn broken that
Mm.
it's like, how did I beat this game? Especially on the Dreamcast with that controller. Somehow I did. I completed it, but it's a game that I probably won't play on stream anytime soon, just because of how janky it is. But they did have Fistful of Boomstick, which came out 2 years later, or 3 years later. I think Hail to the King was 2000. Fistful of Boomstick gets a bad rap because it's not the best, but then they had Evil Dead Regeneration, which is kind of sort of a not really Resident Evil style. It plays more like The Suffering. You're going through a prison, fighting enemies, this and that. I never played either one of them, but I have both of them on PlayStation and Xbox. So I really want to play those games. And then I have the new one, which is just a multiplayer game, but it's fun. I haven't gone back to it since I got it. There was another one I was going to bring up. I can't remember what it was. Damn. Lose my train of thought.
Oh.
I'll let you take the floor for a minute while I think.
What was it about?
Huh?
What was it about?
It was about, I think, movie games. Oh,
There you go.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Oogie's Revenge. It's Devil May Cry with Nightmare Before Christmas theme. I can't stream it for unfortunate reasons because they play the This Is Halloween song throughout every single battle, and I was like, I don't want to get in trouble for this. So I did play it on Twitch a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, no, I feel like I'm just gonna get hit with a claim or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, you could probably turn the music off and play it, but there's certain spots where they're singing, and I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of need the music for that, otherwise it makes no sense. But it's a fun little game. Definitely one that I want to play again, and maybe I will review it. I won't play it, but I will review it. You also got games. Speaking of survival horror, you have Extermination, which is like The Thing meets Resident Evil. I played that in 2001. I remember seeing pictures of it in magazines, in PSM magazine, and I was like, this game looks pretty cool. And it's a PS2 game, and I knew I was getting a PS2, so I was like, I really want to play it. It's like Resident Evil meets Metal Gear Solid meets The Thing, because you're in an Antarctic base and everything. Pretty interesting game. Just very much fell under the radar when it came out, because it came out. So, okay, Resident Evil. Code Veronica comes out and basically swamps Carrier on Dreamcast. Code Veronica X comes out, swamps Extermination, because that came out a couple weeks after Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Probably like maybe a month after, and it just wiped the floor with it. Cold Fear comes out in 2005, a whole month after Resident Evil 4. It's like, you guys picked the wrong time to release these games. Had they released all of these games at different times and not so close to... Then again, you really got to think, Resident Evil was basically dominating all three of those systems. Whatever system they were on, they were pretty much dominating. So Dreamcast had only one new Resident Evil game. They did have 2 and 3 in Dino Crisis, but you had Resident Evil Code Veronica on Dreamcast. You had Resident Evil on PS1, basically just dominating. And Silent Hill was its own beast. Like, it had its own fan base. Still does. But then you had PS2. Extermination could have been so good had they released it somewhere away from Resident Evil. Could have been awesome. Could have had a lot of a fan base, but I also don't think it was promoted very well from what I remember. But it's a very interesting game, and I do want to play it. I know that some people wanted to see it on the channel one time, so I don't know when I'm gonna be able to pull that one off. I have everything scheduled from now to August, so I may shift some stuff around to play it. It's a fun game though. A little confusing at times though. Like I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And that is a game I really needed a guide for because I'm like, I'm lost. I'm not sure where I'm
Yeah.
supposed to go. Like sometimes it's good to get lost, but um, do we count Onimusha as survival horror?
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
I mean, really the first one maybe like that one, Dino Crisis. We talked a little bit about Dino Crisis, but Dino
Yeah.
Crisis 1 was survival horror. Uh, 2 was more arcade based. Um, it was like an arcadey tile, still tank controls, but you could actually move and shoot at the same time, which is pretty damn awesome, but very arcadey. And I love the second one more, but the first one I just finished it on stream last Thursday. And I kid you not, these guys were here for it. I got stuck in the last spot trying to figure out what to do. I was sitting there for a good 5-10 minutes trying to figure out where the hell to go. And I'm just talking to Igor and Rezi and everything. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? We're just, yeah, we got this, we got that. And I'm just looking at the guide going, okay. Says I gotta go here, and then here, and then here. Let's go to that door. Oh crap, where is it? you know.
Ugh.
Um, have you ever played Dino Crisis though?
I've watched you play.
What the
What you got there?
Gatorade, homemade Gatorade.
Homemade Gatorade.
No, I put a powder in a blender cup. That's what this is, and I shake it until it becomes Gatorade. Did that piece like fall off the good? I had like a piece of like powdered sugar or the powdery part down there still, and I'm just like, oh,
Igor
Colt.
says cold fear. I remember it. The ship balancing made it hard to aim at the enemy.
Yeah. So there's a guy I follow on YouTube who was talking. He was doing Resident Evil clones, and one of the ones that he was talking about was Cold Fear, and he talked about how hard it was to control. In fact, I can't reach it, but Cold Fear, I got it back here. I do want to play it. I do want to do like a reaction for it and try it out and everything, but I never got around to playing that game. And back when I started, doing streams and everything, people were like, hey, you should play Cold Fear. I was like, I would love to, but I don't have it. I don't own it.
Yeah.
I found it at the retro shop and I went ahead and I bought it. I was like, shit,
Might
pick
as
it up.
well.
I'm not happy with the price, but it's cheaper than online. So I'm gonna play it one day, sometime soon. But again, it was a game that looked a lot like Resident Evil 4 with the over-the-shoulder thing. Had Resident Evil 4 not released in 2005, that probably would have been the first game to do the whole over-the-shoulder camera angle. I mean, there were other games that had over-the-shoulder style things like
Dead Space.
Yeah, but Dead Space was after.
I know.
But like when you really think about it, when you look at over the shoulder, Resident Evil paved the way. Resident Evil 4 paved the way for that. Like look at Gears of War 2 years after, or a year after that, completely just like Resident Evil over the shoulder style. I love Gears of War 1. That does count as a horror game when you really think about it. In certain spots, it does count as a horror game. Oh, Dead Rising. Dead Rising in the mall, zombies. We didn't talk about that. Well, have you played Dead Rising? Or because I know that you're like, I just watched. I don't play a lot of the spooky games because cheeky nuggies. Dead Rising is a fun game. It's a lot of people didn't like it, and I still get people saying I didn't like it because of the time limit. But I have to tell them the game was meant to be played more than once. You can beat it once, go back and do everything you didn't do the first time, and keep going and going and going, and which is what I did. And that game was contributed to killing my first 360 because I played it doing the infinite mode, which is survive 7 days in game without dying. Well, 7 days in game is 14 hours. Okay, so I started it at noon one day on spring break, or maybe a little bit earlier. Kept going, playing. If I needed to stop or watch TV, I'd just pause the game and turn the system or switch over to the TV and just watch TV for a bit. I just kept going and going and going. Went to dinner, went to lunch, came back, and about 9 o'clock that night, I got killed by somebody. I was so pissed, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. That was just too much
No.
time, too much unneeded, unnecessary time. No, and it's one of the hardest achievements in that game. House of the Dead, great game. I pre-ordered House of the Dead remake for PS4. So, um, but do you want to talk? Have you played that one before, House of the Dead? Any of them?
No. Chicken eight.
It's an arcade game, though.
I know.
It first released in 97
It
or
was
90.
7.
No, I think it was 96 was the first game, and 96. No, I think the first game might have been 97. Second game was 98. I never got to play the original first one. I think I played a little bit of it in like the arcade, but I wasn't really good at it, so I died. But the second one I
Yeah.
played, oh my god, I played that game so much on Dreamcast. No gun, no light gun. I was using a controller, and I realize now the sensitivity, I could have turned it up all the way, and it would have been so much easier to go through and just pop, 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 pop. Because I played it last year, and I was like, this game's, or not last year, earlier this year, and I was like, this game's really not that difficult with the controller. You just got to turn the sensitivity way up, and I didn't like it back then because I was like, this is moving way too fast for me. It's going
Yeah.
all over the place,
Yeah.
But House of the Dead is a great series. We've had 4 mainline games, a remake. They're remaking House of the Dead 2, and then we've actually no, we've had more than 4 mainline games. There's one called Scarlet Red or something, which is an arcade game right now, and then we had Overkill, which is a spin-off. It's more like Grindhouse. Not near as fun as the other ones. It's more story-based and less arcadey like the other ones were. But that is definitely a fun game. Igor says Dead Rising only played a bit of 2. Fun game. It is not as deep as Resident Evil, but that's the game's purpose, not being taken seriously like parody of yeah, exactly, like parody of Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And I can't remember where I saw it, but there's a thing that said this is in no relation to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. It is simply a parody because Dawn of the Dead takes place in a mall.
Yeah.
I never played House of the Dead, I think, but I know it
I
by
know it by
name and
name.
some gameplays. Yeah, I'm gonna play it again on the channel one day. Um, I think when I get the remake, I think my wife and I are gonna probably play it. We are gonna play Dead Island. Speaking of zombies, you got your open world zombie games,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
a couple of
I can
the,
definitely play that game.
I guess a couple of the obscure horror games that I've never really played all the way through are probably the Legacy of Kain series, Nightmare Creatures 1 and 2, um, Stubbs the Zombie on Xbox. I'm trying to think of other games. There's Hunter the Reckoning, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's not really obscure though. It's more based on a TV show.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other obscure horror games. Like basically, when I say that, I mean the less popular ones. Yeah, I can't think of any other ones. Um, Now crappy games.
Yeah, crappy games.
Blade. God, what a well. Evil Dead: Hail to the King kind of sucks too. But Blade is just a Countdown Vampires. F that game. F that game to infinity and beyond. It sucks. It is garbage. I thought it was gonna be so cool when it first came out. I was like, oh, Resident Evil with vampires. That game sucks. Oh my god.
Oof.
I'll play it for you guys one time, but I don't think I'll play through it all the way unless I really want to make myself suffer. Oh, there's also newer survival horror games. There's Tormented Souls, which is essentially Resident Evil style controls. If anybody's ever heard of it, definitely check it out. I played the demo. It's pretty awesome. You got Daymare, which was the original Resident Evil 2 remake before Capcom came in and shut it down. In fact, if you play Resident Evil 2 remake, when you complete it, in the credits, I didn't notice this until last time I played it. It says special thanks to Invader Studios, and I was like, oh, the company that was working on the game originally, and Capcom was like, hey, cease and desist, stop, 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 stop. But see what we're doing, which is basically, screw you guys, we're gonna make a remake of our own. Thank you, Random, for popping in, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow if I do stream. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stream tomorrow. I might edit a video. Played one on the PS1. Don't remember much of it. Yeah, it's not much to remember from the game. I thought it was gonna be cool like the movie, and then it was not cool like the movie. It was more
Yeah,
like
it's
Blade
not.
3 than Blade 1. I'm trying to see other games I have that. Oh, Alien Trilogy is one. Alien Resurrection is one. A funny story about Alien Resurrection. It got bad reviews because of the controls. People are like, we can't deal with the twin stick controls. It's just a fad. It's gonna go away. Nobody's gonna use it again. And then Halo's like, yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I don't think I have anything else to really cover for. I mean, there's a lot of horror games out there. I just don't know what else to cover. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Without like wandering
Yeah.
in different directions.
So what are we gonna say is the best? Did we already say best Resident Evil?
Yeah, we already did that.
So what are we saying is the best horror game of all time?
Yeah, you can't do that. I can't do that.
Okay. All right. What are your top 5 picks for horror games though?
Okay. So,
And it can be anything. It can be any game from any series. It does not have, and you can double up too if you really want to.
um, that's really so many. Okay. It would have to be Until Dawn, just because of how intensely story driven it is and different things that can happen, depending on you as
Yeah.
the player.
Yep.
Then Dead Space would be more my sci-fi one because it's the only one I've actually played in general that has more of the aliens and sci-fi stuff
Yeah.
and crazy stuff going on. So, the original Dead Space would be another one. Uh, Crap. What else we've been talking about?
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 2 would be one, but so would Village because I really liked how the story went and everything like that. So so Village would be another one. Uh I'm brain farting on the one for GameCube.
Eternal Darkness.
Eternal Darkness, yes, because that was the very first horror game I've ever played.
Yeah. Was that 5?
And because of how just in your head it gets.
Yeah. I guess I was that 5 or did you
That was
have one more?
5.
Okay, 5. Okay.
That's 5.
Mine will be number 1 is Resident Evil 2. It's my most played game. Oh shit, we didn't even talk about Castlevania. Damn. We'll save that for another episode. We'll do a whole Castlevania recap and just talk about things. Get to that at the end. Resident Evil 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I'm gonna throw Dead Space. I'm gonna throw Dead Space in there. Eternal Darkness for sure is one of them.
Last but not least.
I'm trying to think. Zombies Ain't My Neighbors. Boom. On SNES. It's technically a kiddie horror game, but it's still scary when you're fighting the chainsaw Jason characters. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Jason
Silent
Red.
Hill. Oh, Silent Hill 2.
Okay.
Silent Hill 2.
Igor's like my top 5 in no order, like mine with no order. Resident Evil 02, Silent Hill 2, Fatal Frame 3, Dino Crisis, and Corpse Party. Those are some interesting ones, like the Corpse Party one. We didn't talk about that.
So let me ask you guys, would y'all like to see more episodes like this where we do recaps of, entire game series? Because I feel like most of it was Resident Evil and we didn't have enough time to really talk about other stuff because there was just so much. Like
there's so much Resident Evil.
We couldn't overlook all of Resident Evil. And really a lot of the obscure games, there really wasn't much to talk about. I mean, a lot of the Silent Hill stuff we talked about early in the episode.
Yeah.
So we really didn't jump into that one because it was kind of the news segment, but then we jumped into the topic of the show and we talked about the psychological horror games and then the basically survival horror with all the Resident Evils that we talked about and everything. So, if you guys would like to see more episodes like this where we cover just a series as a whole, or even movies, there's movies we can cover too. Not Resident Evil the movie. I've already done enough complaining on that in the second episode. If you haven't seen episode
Yeah.
2, go check it out. I was really
Yeah.
not nice to that movie series at all.
You're not.
Except for Welcome to Raccoon City. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it still had its problems.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it before the stream. We really want to look into maybe doing more live streams for the podcast and everything. This technically is the season finale for season 1, so when we start it back up, it'll be season 2. It was gonna be 8 episodes, but we didn't get to record last week. It was gonna be. We can still do a horror movie episode if you want.
Yeah, we can definitely do a horror movie because I've been watching horror movies for like the first time in my adult life.
I say we don't do it like this though, where we cover a bunch of different horror movies. We cover
80s cheese.
80s cheese. I'm thinking our first one should be Friday the 13th. Because I have a lot to say about that series.
Wait, this whole series.
Good stuff. Okay, there are a couple movies in the series I don't like, but not as near as bad as Resident Evil.
Okay, I still haven't watched any of those yet, so I'll have to start watching this.
So that's definitely something we can do. Cover all of them, because there's only like
a billion of them.
There's 12. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X,
Space,
Freddy vs. Jason, and the remake.
Yeah.
And they start to get a little silly in the middle.
A little?
I'll make it easy. We'll do... Damn, Chucky series is just as long. God damn it.
Not the Chucky. I hate dolls.
Okay, maybe not Chucky. Are you good with werewolves?
Yeah.
We can cover American Werewolf in London. That's a whole...
American Werewolf? That's horror?
It's horror, yeah. It's horror comedy. I'm thinking, Creep Show is another good one. I'm looking at my movies. Creep Show 1 and 2 is a good one.
What about the Elm Streets?
Elm Street's only like 7 of those.
Or Hellraiser.
I'd have to watch Hellraiser to cover
I've watched the first one and the new one. I haven't watched the other. I think there's 2 more in the middle.
I can watch the first one. We can cover that one because I hear the rest of them get kind of silly at one point. They go into space and it's like, huh? Leprechaun.
80s cheese.
Leprechaun.
Ooh, Leprechaun. I love Leprechaun.
I mean, it doesn't have to be horror movies. It can be movies in general. Like I'm looking at RoboCop right now, and I can talk about that movie all day. I can talk about Terminator all day, and Night, and Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Pet Sematary. That's a good one.
I haven't seen that.
I mean, it's definitely something we can do, especially for movies that are in a series like Nightmare on Elm Street. We can definitely talk about all of those movies. I'd have to watch them all again, but I mean they're on HBO Max, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, they're on HBO Max.
Oh,
they are.
Claire's her top 5s are. Sorry, I'm skipping over.
RE2, Code Veronica, RE3, Eternal Darkness, and the original RE1 are my top 5 as well.
Horror movies could cover Lucio Fulci ones.
The Italian Master of Gore.
I don't even know where I'd be able to watch those, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, Gore. Okay, that's a little different. I did The Hills Have Eyes, the remake recently. Yeah,
we talked about that recently in the last episode. No, I can't do that movie. I cannot do Wes Craven. What the hell were you thinking? May you rest in peace. But what the hell were you thinking? We could talk about Scream.
Okay, I'd have to watch those too. That's more 90s and 2000s, right?
Yeah, 90s, 2000 is when the third one came out, and then there were
like Final Destination. Like they were all kind of the same time.
We could talk about Final Destination too. I had to watch
Final Destination.
I'd have to watch 4 and 5, but
they're on HBO Max, I think, too.
Yeah, the first one. No questions asked. The first one is the best out of those. Second one is I want to say the first 3 are good.
Are we starting a new podcast right now? Oh, season 2?
No, I'm thinking of future episodes, guys. So you guys should do more live podcasts. Yeah,
because we're not just video games. We're geeky and nerdy about everything.
Yeah. So. And I mean, It's not happening yet, but my wife and I are talking about doing a podcast for like nostalgia, like 90s stuff we grew up with when we were kids, like the Wonder Ball and things like that. That'll probably be on
Yeah.
a whole different channel though, because that's gonna be probably not gaming related for the most part. Yeah, no, definitely got some good ideas floating down the pipeline because I've been wanting to do episodes like this where we just cover a bunch of different things, um, especially recaps and everything. But what are you up to? What do you got going on in the future?
Me? So podcast. But
Oh,
not only yay, jazz hands. Not only that, I got back into streaming. So
yeah,
on Twitch, not on YouTube. I put my videos on YouTube. I just don't stream on here, possibly yet. Um,
one of
Dead
us,
Space.
one of
Yeah,
us.
Dead Space. I'm almost done with it.
What do you got
The
going on
last.
in it right now?
So I think I'm on chapter 9.
I forgot
Because
already.
chapters like seven ended pretty well. 7 was like the longest chapter, and then 8, 9, I might be on chapter
I
10.
think there's only
So
10, to be honest. I can't
yeah,
remember.
so yeah, but chapter like 8 and 9 were like less than, it felt like 15 minutes long. Like they were just
Yeah,
like that.
very short.
So I'm almost done with Dead Space 1. I'm currently still playing through with a couple of my buddies Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, because that any like Dead like Borderlands type games take forever to play, are so enjoyable that we just can continue playing with them and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Um, Tales from the Dark Side. Any fans of the
No,
show called Tales from the Dark Side? Wait, is that the one with the Crypt
no,
Keeper?
that's Tales from the Crypt. So Tales from the
Oh,
Dark Side is based off of a movie called Tales from the Dark Side. That was the script for Creepshow 3. They
oh.
turned it into Tales from the Dark Side, and then they made a TV show out of it. Um, so I have not seen the show. I really want to watch it, but I don't know where I can stream it. To be honest, it's one of those shows that's
Google.
just like not. Yeah, I can Google and find out where. I don't think it may be on Tubi TV for all I know, but it from what I hear, it's a pretty interesting show. It's from the '80s. And I think they made another movie in the '90s. But you're thinking of Tales
Netflix.
from the Crypt, which is again just like Creepshow. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, sorry. Continue with
What was I
your
doing? Oh,
genre. What you've
yeah,
been up
what
to?
am I doing? Basically that's it. Just streaming, trying to put more content out there again after crazy life experiences and stuff going on. So, um, yeah, just getting back into the groove of everything. How about you?
I am going to be starting up Dino Crisis 2 this week. I have not decided if I'm going to be streaming tomorrow because technically I only do 2 streams a week and I really want to edit a little bit of my video. I mean, I say that now. I say, I don't want to stream tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and I'll be like, yeah, let's stream anyways. So if I do, it's going to be Dino Crisis 2. I'm going to be starting that tomorrow. And that game really won't take very long. It'll probably take hopefully 2 streams at most. I think the only reason the first one took 3 is because I got lost a few times and I was not sure where to go. So we're gonna be starting that, and then if we finish that before November ends, we're gonna be jumping into Silent Hill. That's
Nice.
gonna take a little bit of time to get through, but the biggest news is that I will be bringing back my recap episodes, my reviews. Stopped doing them for a bit because I wanted to try doing playthroughs of games off stream and everything. And I realized that is very time consuming. I was able to get 2 games out, 3 games out: Siphon Filter, Medal of Honor, and Last of Us Part One.
Yeah.
Games like if I'm gonna do a playthrough on the channel, I'm just gonna stream it instead. There's a lot of games I want to play that aren't really horror based, and I know you guys would love to see those. Like I've had people say they want to see Jack and Daxter, they want to see Crash Bandicoot, they want to see this, that. So I'm just making a list, checking it twice, and hoping that these games work. No, I'm kidding. Just a bunch of games that I have on the list to play, but I'm definitely going to be reviewing more games. I'm working on a very special episode right now that has to do with one of the games we talked about in today's episode, Resident Evil.
Ooh.
The only problem is I need to get more footage for Resident Evil 1. I was recording it and I got about halfway through the game and I was like, oh crap, I don't have footage a lot because each little segment's about 3 to 4 minutes long. I was like, damn it, I need more footage for this section of video. So it's basically going to be a recap covering the first 3 games and Survivor. I put it all together, and then when I got to the intro, I said, I'm going to be talking about everything on PS1 from Resident Evil 1 to Resident Evil Survivor. I was like, oh, shit. I need to record that, don't I? So that's currently what I'm working on. The reviews, they're not going to be a weekly thing like they used to be. It's just going to be pop them out when they're ready, upload them when they're ready. Because when I tried to get them, out every week, I was really struggling to like just get everything filmed, recorded, edited. Yeah, I don't need a whole lot of footage, but it's good to have more than less,
Yeah.
So working on that. Um, yeah, just podcast stuff, and that is about it. Definitely, if you guys want to follow Mittenz, you can check her links out down below on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the I think I have everything. The YouTubes, the Twitches.
Yeah.
You can definitely check her out down there. And this is Mittenz 13 at everything, right?
Pretty much everything, or it'll have like K Mittens in front of it because sometimes it's taken.
Right. That's right. I forgot. I think your Twitch is K Mittens, right?
No, the Twitch is Mittenz 13.
Okay, one of them is K Mittens. I can't remember which one.
Instagram? Yeah,
Probably.
Instagram.
Yeah, definitely check out her content. Great time over there. Other than that, I got nothing else. Thank you all for coming in today. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. We definitely will do more of these. I like interacting with everybody and just getting y'all's thoughts on, whatever we're talking about. It's easier to do it this way. That way we can answer your questions live instead of, afterwards when it's, commented in or when it's comments and everything. Because sometimes I don't see the comments, like YouTube's sometimes doesn't send them all the way through, and I'll see a comment like months later. I'm like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
somebody commented. Damn. Let me answer it. And I was like, oh, they were being rude. Never mind. I'm not gonna answer that comment.
Delete. No.
Yeah. And somebody complained about a tutorial I did on Resident Evil. They said I was talking too much, and then I was like, it's a tutorial, dude. Like, what? Come on.
I want you to
Come on.
mime it.
I'm doing more shorts too. I'm still doing daily shorts. I actually uploaded one today that was Resident Evil Director's Cut. And the title was Handgun Don't Fail Me Now, basically, because I was running through a hallway and I found this clip when I was making my other video, and I was like, ooh, I should use that as a clip. I'm running down the hallway and 2 zombies are just speeding towards me. I'm like, ah! Shooting it because on a range mode it's harder. Pop both of them with a headshot. With the handgun. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
I was like, oh damn, talking about a lucky shot. So that is it. That is all I got.
Yeah. Thank you all guys for being here with us.
So and I know I might have already mentioned it, but if there's anything you guys want us to cover, just let us know. Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on the Twitters, the Instagrams, wherever.
Anyway.
And let us know. Let us know in the comments. But that is it. That is it for tonight's episode. First live stream will not be the last one. And I got nothing else. Hopefully we'll see y'all again next time, and definitely check out Mitten's stream. Definitely, hopefully I'll see you guys when I do Dino Crisis. If not tomorrow, then Thursday for sure. And if not, y'all have a good rest of your week, and we will see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.
Bye, everybody. I can't hear you.